Miami, Florida, one of the sexiest cities in the world, and we are just 40 miles south at Homestead-Miami Speedway. This is the place to be because on this Sunday afternoon, history is going to be made, and you don't want to miss it. There are 6.4 billion people in the world, and they all want something different. We found 22 men who all just want one thing. Make that 21 men and one woman. Gladiators and renegades, each on his or her own track to Indy racing glory. It's pure wheel-to-wheel adrenaline, and the only thing they have to lose is everything. In 2004, the championship quest saw precision teamwork and split-second reactions. Brazilian Tony Kanaan completed every lap and captured the crown. Now the slate is clean, and he has bypassed the champion's choice of number 1, keeping lucky 11. As the 10th season of the IRL IndyCar Series unfolds, all who turn its laps look deep inside. To be on top in October, one must begin March like a lion. Lambs need not apply. Sam Hornish Jr., racing the red and white of Team Penske, was the first to climb the podium in Miami last season. His success was fleeting. Beware the Ides of March. Buddy Rice became the newest American racing legend, tasting milk as the Indy 500 champion, only to be turned on his head one too many times. When he found out which way was up, a championship was out of reach. Kanaan and his Indy Green crew are now marked men. Our reigning champ calls Miami home, and now 21 of his closest friends are moving in for the weekend. It's time to put away the valuables. The 2005 IndyCar season starts now. Welcome to Firestone Race Day and the start of a new season and a new era in the IndyCar Series. Blue skies and the best drivers in the world have drawn race fans to Homestead. Will Tony Kanaan be able to repeat what he did last year and grab another title? Will Sam Hornish Jr. win again like he did in the first race of the season? And we will see the premiere of rookie sensation Danica Patrick. And hello, everyone. I'm your host, Todd Harris, for the IndyCar season in 2005. It is an old-school feel with a new-school attitude, and it should be a great day of racing. As we said at the top of the show, history will be made today as ESPN brings you side-by-side coverage. Here's how it looked. This box will be occupied by continual racing action. Above me, we'll have the list of the drivers in order as they are on the track, and, of course, our commercial will run in its entirety on the left-hand side. Full audio, full video. Also on ESPN2, we'll have simulcast with our 7 onboard cameras being carried by our good friends and colleagues Gary Gerald and Jacques Lazier. And I'm fortunate enough to have 2 great men who know a little something about being in the winner's circle joining me this year in the broadcast booth.
Who will win it in Texas? It's Scott Goodyear.
Second time in 3 years, Team Penske goes 1-2. This time it's Gilles Lefebvre winning the 87th Indianapolis 500-mile race. 2 of the best in the business. Apparently, they didn't get my footage in time, but we'll get to that another time. Gilles Lefebvre and Scott Goodyear. Scott, as we look to the talent pool here in 05 IndyCar Series, it is extremely deep.
Todd, we absolutely have the most competitive field that we've ever had in this series. When you think about it, 11 of 12 championship drivers from last year are returning with the same team again this season. Adrian Fernandez, who was an owner, comes now as an owner and a driver possibly later in the season. You think about all the competitive teams. Penske, Target, Rahal, and then Andretti Green Racing with championship Tony Kanaan. He won last year. Well, I have to say he's going to have a hard time repeating in 05.
One thing that Tony Kanaan was able to pull off last year is he completed every lap of every race. A remarkable feat, but can he do it again?
It's always a great feeling when you wake up in the morning and you know you're the champion, and you know, there is always somebody, especially back home, that reminds you that every day. But now it's a new year. You're going to have to start all over again. When you win, that's what happens. You're always going to be the target, so I don't feel any pressure. Just I'm going to do my job like I always did, nothing different. And no matter how, no matter, you know, how many races we'll win, or if we lead most laps like we did, if we finish every lap like we did, the goal is to win the championship. And whatever I have to do to make it happen, I will.
Gilles de Ferran, you maybe know Tony Kanaan better than most people. Can he do it again?
Todd, I think three things can happen with a champion. You can become overconfident, in which case you become more mistake-prone. You can become a little bit blasé, like I've done it all before. You know, I don't need this stuff anymore. And in which case, that would not be good for his championship. Or he can do exactly the same thing as he did last year, put the same amount of energy, put the same amount of focus on his work, which I actually think that's what's going to happen to Tony this year.
All right, for more on the champ, we head down to pit row and our Dr. Jerry Punch.
Well, Todd, Kanaan's numbers from last year were most impressive. Not only did he win a championship and earn almost $3 million along the way, he completed every lap and every race along a grueling 16-race schedule. And champ, today, though, the slate is wiped clean. What will it take for you to duplicate that impressive season of a year ago?
We're not even pretending to do that again. So that's stuff that happens once in a while. So we're going to try to do our best this year. I think we do have very good organization. Nobody left. Same team, same people, same engine, as good as always. So we're going to try to just do our best and try to do, you know, win another championship.
Start way back in 14th today. How long will you stay there?
Not long, believe me. You watch. You guys know me from last year. I'm being in the back before, so I'll be up there with my friends in a hurry for sure.
Hey, good luck to you. Will be fifth or better. You know, this race 1 year ago not only launched Tony Kanaan toward a championship, it also proved to be the highlight of the season for Penske Racing.
Hardy's to the low side. Castro Neves to the high side. Setting up for turn number 3. Hardy's by a nose at the exit of turn number 4. Who's going to win it, Mike?
Sam Hornish Jr. comes off at turn number 4. Here comes Dilly under the inside. Hornish will win it.
Going into last year, Marlboro Team Penske with two-time Indy 500 winner Helio Castro-Neves and two-time series champion Sam Hornish Jr. was thought to be the team to beat. However, the results were less than expected. 5 poles, but just 2 victories. Hornish here at Homestead in the season opener, and Castro-Neves in the season finale at Texas. Not the results they were hoping for, but now it is a new season, and Marlboro Team Penske believes it once again is a team to be reckoned with.
We are very focused. It will be a very competitive season again, and hopefully we're going to be right there on top of the line.
In this sport, the combination of driver, chassis, and engine greatly determines a team's ultimate success or failure. Series insiders say that last year, Honda engines had a distinct horsepower advantage over the Chevrolet and Toyota power plants, leaving Marlboro Team Penske at a huge disadvantage.
We knew we were always fighting an uphill battle. Not only did we have to have the car handle a little bit better, you know, we had to drive at 10/10ths all the time. And yeah, I think that's what got us in trouble a couple times, or at least got me in trouble.
Achieving what we did in the last 4 races last year, capturing the pole position, that was incredible for us. Obviously, that's not all. Racing wins and championship, and that's what we're looking for. You know, we won the first race, we won the last race, and that created great momentum for 2005.
Sam Hornish Jr. and Helio Castro-Neves are 2 of 18 drivers returning this year. They will be joined by 4 new faces. Patrick Carpentier makes his IndyCar debut, as well as the rookie everybody's been talking about her, Danica Patrick. Danica Patrick, just another pretty face?
How many speeding tickets have you talked your way out of?
6.
6? What do you say? Oh, you just bat the eyelashes, huh?
Or are her obvious looks just a fraction of what she brings to racing? Since she was 13 years old, getting a start on ESPN2, she has climbed the ranks of the open-wheel ladder system. Yesterday, Danica qualified 9th at her first IndyCar event, proving she is a force to be reckoned with. And I'm joined now by Miss Danica Patrick. Danica, the day has finally come. What is your personal goal today?
I think I just need to keep my nose clean, stay out of trouble, don't do anything silly, make sure I hit my marks in the pit lane, and race clean. I don't want to go out there and look like a wimp in any kind of situation, but I don't want to be stupid either. and so it's a fine line I'm going to walk because of my experience level. But I got to tell you, I'm going to do what I can do, and I'm going to keep my foot down as much as I can do that, and hopefully go forward, really.
Now you're starting in the middle of the pack. You have experienced drivers in front of you and back of you. You've never run in a traffic situation like this. What is your strategy?
Yeah, thanks for reminding me. I'm just going to take what I did in practice sessions, because they do a lot of running together in practice to see how your car handles, and I'm just gonna stick with what I learned there, which has only been a few sessions worth. But I think it's enough to get me through this first race, and I'm sure I'll learn a ton more today.
Well, it's no surprise to any of us. There's been some controversy surrounding you and the way you've been marketed. How do you balance your sexuality with being considered a serious race car driver?
I think there are two sides to a race car driver. There's the marketability side that attracts sponsors and lures people in and lets them sell their product to the best of their ability, like hopefully I've done for Argent and Pioneer. They're new on board now. But, you know, anyone else that may be out there looking too, you have to stay out there. And it's you know, sponsors sometimes turn over, and you just have to be open to all different situations. But the bottom line is that it allows me to race cars, which is what I'm here to do today.
Bottom line, Todd, she has the full package, and all eyes will be on number 16.
All right, thank you very much, Jamie. We'll re-examine the Danica factor with my two colleagues, but as we said at the top of the show on ESPN2, live simulcast coverage using our 7 onboard cameras, and giving us that call, our good friends Gary Gerald and 2001 Chicagoland Speedway winner Jacques Lazier.
Todd, I tell you what, we're excited. Everybody is excited, and why not? This racing has produced some fantastic finishes of late. You see pack racing at well over 200 miles per hour. We've got onboard views galore today, and I've got the insight of Jacques Lazier, who's going to tell us what it feels like.
I'll tell you what, Gary, if you're a fan of going over 220 miles an hour in these cars, and you like to see, and you like what you see, you got to watch this show.
Absolutely. It'll be exciting, and it's an innovative way to kick off a 10th anniversary season of the IndyCar Series.
Thank you, Gary and Jacques. When we return, we'll further examine the debut of Danica Patrick, and Jill and Scott will give their opinion on how she might respond to the pressure.
Well, through the years, onboard cameras have become a staple of motorsports competition, providing a unique perspective in one of a few sports where you can take a place virtually alongside the star performers. Today, we're attempting to take that experience to a whole new level as we invite you to join us for an all-onboard simulcast of the Toyota Indy 300 from Homestead-Miami Speedway in sunny South Florida. Hello and welcome, everyone. I am Gary Gerald. Jacques Lazier is alongside, and I got to tell you what, this guy is stepping in on the spur of the moment. Kenny Breck was supposed to be here, but he has been put in the wall by the flu, big time. And Kenny, we feel for him, but Jacques happened to be available literally 45 minutes ago. We said, do you think you can do this? He said, sure, let's give it a shot. Thank you so very much.
No problem. I'll tell you, I'm excited about this.
Well, we're excited about the fact that you've got some good news on the horizon. I know you would like to be in a race car today. What about the future?
I'm very excited. We've put together a program for Indy. We have the engine deal put together. We have the chassis deal put together. And I'm going to wait and let the team himself actually announce the sponsor and everything in about a week and a half to 2 weeks from now.
And we're looking forward to seeing Jacques at Indianapolis during the month of May. This is always a great day. The start of a new season, all the months of planning and preparation, the testing, the new car development, etc. Emotions are so high. And now, just minutes before the green flag in the first event, can you get too jacked up, too amped up? Can it hurt your performance?
I think you definitely can. I think every one of the drivers out here is professional. They understand what they have to do. They know that there's a big program here and a big plan that's further down. It's a 17 race schedule, and this is just the very beginning. You got to get through this weekend with all 4 tires left on the car, and you just kind of got to build momentum, and this is where it all starts.
Now, just a few moments ago, we were introduced to Danica Patrick. Here she is at age 22, a female in a series that's been dominated by men over the years. No oval track, no Indy type experience. How much pressure is she feeling today?
I think she's feeling a lot of pressure, but I think it's all pressure that she's putting on herself. Obviously, she's with an established team. They've won before. They won the Indy 500 last year. I think she's putting a lot of pressure on herself. I don't think anybody's expecting great things because she is a rookie, but I think she's putting a lot of pressure on herself.
Well, it'll be interesting to follow her throughout the day, and that's just one of the many stories that we'll be following. Let's meet the real stars of this show. We have 7 cars that will be carrying a variety of onboard views for us. From the back, Patrick Carpentier. He will be starting in the 19th position. Scott Dixon, who has won here 2 years ago and won a championship, starts 16th. Tony Kanaan, you heard from him. He's the defending series champion, and Tony Kanaan will be starting 14th in this one today. Here's the view we'll also have from the helmet of Tony Kanaan. His Andretti Green Racing teammate, Brian Herta, will be another who will be carrying a camera today. We'll also be riding with Danica Patrick. We'll also be riding with Scott Sharp. We'll also be riding with Thomas Schechter throughout the course of this afternoon. But right now, we're getting oh so close to that favorite command. A brand new season is at hand. Put away the expectations. Let's see who's going to measure up.
Florida, are you ready? Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
You see the hands that were in the air. You hear the familiar sounds. We've got a perfect day to go racing. You see the temperature, a light breeze out of the northeast. Mostly sunny is the forecast. No threat of rain. Conditions couldn't be much better than they are for this competition here in our season opening race. A 1.5 mile oval. The race distance is 200 laps or 300 miles. You see the breakdowns on the chassis. Pit stops, we're expecting probably a 3 pit stop race, dictated, of course, by yellow flags, and probably more than likely they'll go about 50 to 55 laps or so before we get the stops. For Thomas Schechter, who carries an onboard today, 2004 was one of major frustration as he failed to finish in 10 of 16 races. He clearly was the tough luck driver of the season.
What happened out there?
I don't want to blame anybody, but that's what happens when you race that close.
All kinds of problems down here.
We touched.
Can't find a brake.
Oh, the fuel valve stuck. The fuel valve stuck.
Oh, and bad luck's kind of hitting us in 2004.
The Chevrolet Pennzoil has been snake bitten.
But Schechter starts the new season with sky-high confidence thanks to a 215-mile-per-hour qualifying run yesterday that earned him the pole position. Now let's check out the starting grid. Vitor Mira, his first front row start since July of last year with Schechter. Second row, Schechter's new teammate Thomas Enga, only his 3rd IRL start. Buddy Rice, the defending Indy 500 champion. Franchitti and Sharp in the 3rd row. Castro Neves and Sam Hornish in the 4th row. Danica Patrick, Roger Yasukawa in row 5. Dan Weldon and Darren Manning in the 6th row. Tony Kanaan and Brian Herta, teammates, in row 7. Kosuke Matsura, the Rookie of the Year last year with Scott Dixon. Remember, Dixon's the only driver besides Sam Hornish to win here at Homestead-Miami. Alex Barron, A.J. Foyt the 4th in row 9. Carpentier and Ed Carpenter driving for a new team created by Tony George in the 10th row. And rounding out our field, a rookie coming up from the Menards Infinity Pro Series, Paul Dana, and the young Aussie, Ryan Briscoe, who becomes a teammate now in Chip Ganassi's racing stable. Now, every now and then during yellows today, we're hopeful of being able to talk to a couple of different drivers. One of them is Scott Sharp. Scott Sharp, Gary Gerald in the ESPN2 all simulcast broadcast booth with our onboard look today. We know you're excited about the start of this race. Any concerns?
Hey, Gary, how are you? We're definitely excited to kick off the year. Real excited to be with Delphi Fernandez team. Really just, I think we're going to have a really great car here. Want to settle in. I think certainly we can run with anybody out here. Just take our time, make it to the end.
Well, we're looking forward to it. Have a good, safe day and a great run.
Thanks, Gary.
The word from Scott Sharp in car number 8. We'll be back for the start of this race in just a moment. ESPN 360 combines the best of TV and the internet, and today it combines our unique IndyCar coverage from ESPN and ESPN2 on the same screen. Go to ESPN360.com to find out more. Well, everybody taking a deep breath, everybody getting set. Safety car is pulled down to the inside and now enters pit road. And up front, Thomas Scheckter sets the pace as we anticipate going green.
This is definitely time everybody's got to take a big, deep breath, and here we go.
A brand new season is underway. Scheckter from the pole. We look out the backside of the Chevy power plant, and we watch the field working its way onto the backstretch for the first time.
He definitely got a good jump on that restart. You can see that Vitor's going to try to give him a challenge here for the lead, wants to lead the first lap.
You can just see the nose of Vitor Meira on the right side of Scheckter. We pan over there now, and we see the battle down to the line, and Meira, by a matter of feet, leads lap number 1 of 200. Now look at things tighten up. The very tight radius of these corners create a concern. But this track has been reconfigured in the last couple of years. And Jacques, you drove the old track. Now they've got the luxury of being able to race side by side.
Yeah, they definitely do. Before, it was really a one-groove track. Now what you see from Tony, you can see that there's cars basically everywhere. It's a multiple groove track. It's a lot more banking in the corner. It is a real tight corner still, but there's a lot more banking now, which lets cars go on side by side.
This is Scott Sharp. This is Tony Kanaan. Kanaan had already gained several positions. His teammate Dan Weldon right alongside of him. Kanaan has moved into the top 10 in 8th position. Saw him reach down and make a shift right there. How often do you shift on this racetrack in this configuration?
Well, typically right now with very low or very high fuel loads, you're going to be shifting quite a bit. You're letting the tires come up to temperature, and you're definitely going to be doing a lot of shifting. But once you get into a groove, typically with the wind, you might be shifting once or twice a lap.
Last lap, 210.9 miles per hour for the leader, Scheckter. Sharp drifting up a bit there, and a couple of guys getting by on the inside.
Yeah, you could hear he had to get out of it. I'm not sure if there was somebody that kind of jumped in front of him or what, but it looks like Herders might be having the same problem. I think everybody's just trying to get into a groove right now. It's a very tight pack, and everyone just needs to get kind of into a groove and get the race going here.
And this is what we were talking about, emotions at the start of the season. You've waited so long for this moment, and now you have really got to have that sharp concentration.
Absolutely, and I mean, without a doubt, it's all about being patient right now. This is a long race, 200 laps, 300 miles. They just got to be patient, get everybody into a line. And a lot what you see here with Thomas and Vitor, they're just kind of going through the paces right now, getting everything going, getting into a groove, and you know, really waiting for the end of the race.
That's Darren Manning, and look how close they were there. Brian Herta, the view from his camera. And now we look out the backside after he completed that pass. But boy, I mean, from up here, Jacques, I mean, you're used to this. You're used to being in the cockpit. I don't know, is there a different sensation when you see them that close together on the screen as opposed to when you're in the car?
There definitely is, especially with what happened there with Brian. I mean, you can hear him get out of it. He was getting a little hesitant because he saw that the other car was starting to slide up the track a little bit. So he was getting a little spooked just to make sure everything, it's early in the race, he was making sure that the car wasn't going to come up and make sure his spotter saw him.
Continue to ride with Thomas Scheckter. He is our race leader. Vitor Meira right behind him, riding for the Ray Hall Letterman team.
You can see here with Vitor, he's kind of stepping his car about a half a car length or a car width out. The reason he's doing that, he's trying to get clean air to the car. What typically has happened with these cars, when you get real close in the banking, the car is going to want to wash out a little bit. You lose a lot of the downforce in the under tray because of the fact that there's no air coming to your car. So you try to step out half a car width like he's doing now, and you can get a real good run on the driver in front of you.
If you're Thomas Scheckter and you see a driver stepping out of that groove continually in your mirrors, what are you thinking?
I think he's thinking early enough on in the race that, you know, I'm just going to keep running my line. Obviously, Vitor, if he had something for Thomas right now, he would have already gone by. I think he knows that Vitor's just stepping out a little bit just so we can get clean air. He keeps the oil temperature in Vitor's car. He's trying to do that so he can keep the oil temperature down. I don't think Thomas is very worried right now with Vitor. I think he's just kind of going through the steps right now.
There were a lot of people in the paddock yesterday after watching the Chevys qualify first and third, thinking that they might hook up as teammates and pull away from this field. But clearly, Vitor Meira is hanging right in there in second place, right behind Thomas Scheckter.
Yeah, Vitor definitely had a very good qualifying effort. He was the one Honda that separated the two Chevys, and unfortunately, Thomas Ingay's having some problems. So I think that Thomas Schechter's going to be out there kind of unfortunately by himself right now.
Enga has dropped to the back of the field. Here's Tony Kanaan as he continues to carve his way forward. He is in 8th place at the moment.
Yeah, I'm actually very surprised. I've heard a lot of people lifting. This track is typically very easy to go flat out on. I don't know if it's because of the temperature. We've had overcast skies since we got here with a little bit of rain. All of a sudden, it's sunny.
Oh, we got problems here. Look like Dario Franchitti.
And unfortunately, you can see Dario looks like he had an engine failure go on there. Again, it could be the same situation.
And we have a yellow flag as a result. And that was the look there from Scott Dixon going by Dario Franchitti. So our first yellow of the competition, and everybody slows down. And on the left-hand side of the screen, you see Franchitti heading his way toward the pits. A man who won 2 races last year and a man who really brought a lot of confidence into this series. Qualified very well yesterday. He was a top 5 qualifier, but his debut in a brand new season is over early. Boy, that has to be just so heartbreaking and frustrating when you encounter any type of a failure that denies you a chance to compete for the 200 laps.
Yeah, absolutely, especially this early on in the race. When things go further on in the race, you always expect to have some kind of mechanical problem. It comes with the territory. This early on, you're so excited about the race. You're so excited to get back from the off season. You're ready to go. Everything, you get the momentum going. You're driving there. You're talking to your guys. You're telling them what the car's doing, and then all of a sudden you have a catastrophic failure like this. It's definitely very disheartening.
Well, Dario had some success last year for the first time in this IndyCar Series, as he had career wins twice at Milwaukee on the mile and also at Pikes Peak. And now he has been sidelined, and we are under caution here. You see the number of laps that are complete and, of course, the running order. You're riding there and looking through the visor, actually, the helmet cam of Tony Kanaan. You see those great clear skies we were talking about, a few puffy clouds here and there. And Chuck, you mentioned the ambient track conditions with the sunshine today, and you just wonder what the handling characteristics are alike. Now, of course, we wait to see whether the leader gambles, or I don't know if it's a gamble, but he elects to pit or not under this yellow, being only 15 laps in, or if he will stay out. And that pretty much would, I would assume, dictate what the followers do.
It will. We're early enough on, 15 laps. You're about halfway through your fuel, so I would expect everybody to come in. It's going to be interesting. You'll really get to see how the action occurs down in the pits. Everybody says, okay, you go to the pits, you get to relax, take a breath. You're going to see how fast these guys work on these cars. You don't even get a chance to breathe. You're basically in and out.
Schechter and Mira really set quite a stage here. Now we get ready for pit stops, riding with Schechter and Kanaan. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see where they duck into their respective pits.
It'll be interesting to see if either one of the drivers go down to make any kind of adjustments on their car as well. Right now is when you can go in. You can see Thomas is reaching up there, and he's setting a different fuel map on the car. He's also going down a couple gears to get into neutral. Everything looks pretty much standard. It didn't look like he was adjusting his bar, so I think he's just going to go for tire and fuels.
Kanaan goes all the way down to pit exit, so the service is complete for Schechter. He's rolling as Kanaan hits his pit box.
Oh, Schechter had a close call there with a couple cars.
A lot of traffic coming out. And Tony Kanaan now getting away, but he's got a lot of guys in front of him. He may have lost a couple of positions here. We'll see how it shakes out as they scramble back onto the entry road and they join up on the back straightaway.
I think what you saw there, you got to see the onboard with 2 cars there. One of them decided with Thomas Schechter and Panther Racing, they decided to change tires. A couple cars that got out in front of them did not change tires. They just went for fuel only. So they're very comfortable with how their cars are handling right now.
Folks at Firestone who provide the tires were concerned about the tight turning radiuses at this track. They say that the load factors on the right side at this track, Homestead-Miami, exceed any other track on the circuit. We're going to go back and take a look at a replay here on the stop by Thomas Schechter.
He's in the perfect place. Everything's wide open. You can see he's coming into his pits there. Kind of tight to get him, but luckily he's got a teammate there, so they moved his tires a little bit. Easy. Everybody got the fuel in, no problem. They're putting the tires in, just waiting to see everybody go.
Notice, I lost it too fast. I was going to point out the single point fueling, which is mandatory this year, where they have the vent hose and the fueling hose. Oh, look at that traffic as they came out. Not much room for mistake or error right there.
Oh, that looks like fun.
You missed that, don't you?
I do.
It was interesting. I was watching you out of the side of my eye, and you were leaning forward, and you were almost reaching up like you were grabbing the wheel. I love it. Brian Herta has taken over the lead, as you see, with his teammate Weldon, then Alex Barron. Paul Dana, who started in the last row, electing to stay out, and so they have advanced. Just a few moments ago, we had an opportunity to listen in on the radio to Scott Sharp relating to the handling of his number 8 machine.
I'm almost neutral in 1 and 2. It's just awful tight. Middle, it just won't keep turning. It'll get down to the bottom and then just stop.
Now, are you able to discern anything from that shot?
Yeah, basically what he's saying is I think what's occurring is he's fighting the wind right now. We do have a wind coming from turn 3 to turn 2, and what he's saying when he's almost neutral in the middle of 1 and 2, basically the air's kind of the wind's catching the front of the car, so the car's real loose, real kind of on the edge. Not a great feeling for a driver on these tracks. As far as what's going on down there, I think he's saying to his team that he's got a little bit of a pushover in 3 and 4. That's because now the wind's catching the back of the car, so they're gonna make probably some tire adjustments on it throughout the race, and they'll get that car working very well.
We watched these cars weave from that shot just a moment ago. Is that just trying to keep excess rubber or junk off the tires, or is it keeping them at a temperature?
There's really two forms. One, if for someone like Brian Herta, who did not pit that time, he's trying to keep his tires clean. The rest of them, like Scott Dixon, he actually did pit this last time. What he's trying to do is actually get a little bit of tire temperature and tire pressure into the tires, as well as keep them clean from debris.
How long does it take tires to come up to temperature and pressure under the conditions we have today?
I'll be honest with you, with these Firestone tires now, the temperature and pressure will come up within a lap and a half.
Is that right?
It's very critical, because we get these cars so close to the ground that you have to get the pressures up in time. If not, you'll go into the corner and scrape and want to slide up towards the wall. But they really do come up to pressures very, very quickly.
Sharp currently in 6th place. We'll see whether or not those who elected to stay out there are going to be able to maintain. Here's Danica Patrick, who's currently in 18th position. We talked about the pressure on her, and we get a chance to ride and see her bringing it up to speed now.
That was her first pit stop, so I think that was kind of expected that she was going to fall back a little bit, get comfortable. We're on board now with the leader, and
here we go.
He's got his teammate right behind him, so these two could hook up and work together and start trying to pull away.
We're back under green.
Boy, that does get tight, doesn't it?
Well, and that's nothing compared to sometimes what we see. Now look at this. Now we got him almost 4 wide. Oh, a little hesitation on the throttle.
That was Paul Dana. He's getting a little bit of a learning session. This is his first IndyCar race.
Comes up from the Infinity Pro Series. What a monstrous jump in horsepower and change in handling characteristics and everything about it.
Yeah, I'm really shocked. You can still hear it on the throttle. He really has to back out of it a little bit.
This is Scott Dixon. You see Hornish there, the right side of the screen, was pulling down to the low side and makes the pass. Vitor Miroff on the high side.
You can really see with his steering wheel, he's really fighting with the car. It's still a little twitchy as the pressures are coming up, but I think within the next lap and a half he'll be ready to go.
Schechter and Alex Barron, and now we're on board with Carpentier.
And you can see the car in front of him. When I was talking about the pressure's not quite up because of all the fuel, the car has a tendency to scrape a little bit. We put some pads on the under tray, and then what that allowed us to do is just to get right down to the absolute minimum.
Boy, Carpentier, we mentioned how he struggled in qualifying when the car wouldn't get out of 4th gear for him yesterday, but he looks like he liked that high side, that high line. Here's Danica Patrick now.
Man, that car that we right next to Danica was awfully high. I don't know if he actually made it all the way through. You can see a car jumping out right to the right end of Tony. Roger. It's good to see Roger up there, too. That's a team that could definitely use some positive right now with Dreyer Reinbold.
I had a chance to talk earlier today with Robbie Buell, and Robbie was very excited. Robbie works up on top of the grandstand as the spotter on the radio to Roger Yasukawa, and very, very optimistic about what they're putting together for this new season. Of course, that's the beauty of season opening action. Everybody's got a clean slate, and everybody's expectations are very high.
Everybody thinks that they can win the first race.
Schechter now in 5th place.
Just went down a gear, and basically what happened with the 2 cars in front of him, he got such a good run on him, he had to kind of lift a little bit so he didn't get too close to him in the corner.
Well, this is interesting. Let's see what Tony Kanaan elects to do here. That's Sam Hornish on the left, Vitor Mira on the right, directly in front of Kanaan.
I think Tony is going to be a little bit patient right now, just like I would do it. It's so early in the race. Oh, you just saw a big twitch
from wiggle there.
That's what happens when you get too close. Because of the aerodynamics they've done on these cars, when you get too close, there's so much disturbed air coming from the cars in front of you that you'll just all of a sudden the car will want to snap loose like it did on there. So that was a very good catch by Tony. I think he's just going to kind of soothe down a little bit, let the cars in front of him get kind of figured out, and then he'll start picking them off one at a time.
Well, that exactly appears to be what he is doing. Obviously a long way to go, only 27 laps of 200 now complete.
You can definitely see everybody wants the inside line. As Thomas is trying to go around the outside, you can see how all of a sudden the inside line is quicker. Because it's a shorter distance around the racetrack, everybody ideally wants to be on the inside groove.
Oh, here's the beauty of onboard cameras. My goodness, I take a deep breath every time. I get a real nervous stomach watching this. Schechter picks up a couple of positions. He's up to 3rd. Running order will catch up on the next lap as they cross over. You see it across the top of the screen. And the intervals. Boy, at this type of racing, and race pace today has been right around consistently early on here, 211, 210 miles per hour.
Really looks like Thomas's car is working well. We're on board with the Panther car right now with Thomas Schechter, and the car sounds good. It looks like they're right in between gears, and I think what they've had a lot of experience here. You can hear them shift right there. They're working the wind right now. As I was saying earlier, the wind coming from turn 3 into turn 2. You're going to be faster down the front straight than you are on the back straight, so he's just kind of playing with the gears with the full fuel.
One of our colleagues from the ESPN traditional coverage, Dr. Jerry Punch, in the pits just moments ago, caught up with Dario Franchitti.
A frustrating day for you. Any warning at all?
No, I got some warning coming out of turn 4 there, and it took it as far as turn 1 to let go, so very frustrating. We had a small imbalance in the car, but we could have fixed that in the first stop, and not the start we were looking for at all.
Dario Franchitti, disappointment here at Homestead-Miami.
Well, and if you're a teammate to Dario Franchitti, and there are 3 others in Weldon, Kanaan, and Herta on the track, all with Honda power, I wonder if you kind of gulp when you see your teammate in a cloud of smoke with some type of a major engine difficulty.
I think in the very first pit stop, you probably called your guys and you know, asked them what was going on, and I don't think you're too concerned with it because of Honda. You know, they've been such a positive for that team in the last the last year and a half, that I think they're very confident that their engines will last.
We've got some debris on the racetrack. That's the reason for the yellow. You hear the revs coming back down. You see the yellow being displayed here at the flag stand. So for the second time, this race has never gone yellow free. And in fact, the minimum number of yellows in this race, 4. So everybody figured there'd probably be some opportunities to kind of catch your breath. And now, with 34 laps complete, some of those who did not pit the first time around would more than likely, I would think, make a stop now. But then again, that's just speculation from a non-driver.
Hey, right now you can see from the onboard here, everybody's basically going to the yellow map, and what they're doing with each engine manufacturer does it a little different. I know that with a couple of them, we're taking a V8, basically a purpose-built V8, and when we take it to the yellow map, we're basically taking 3 cylinders out of it, so they're out of the firing order, and now you're running a 4-cylinder. It takes the fuel economy basically from About 2.5 miles to a gallon up to about 12 to 13 miles to a gallon.
A huge difference, and of course that could stretch out later on, critically when you need a couple of more laps late in a race. So
absolutely.
Yellow mapping. How many different fuel maps does a driver have at his disposal?
We typically have about 12 different maps at our disposal, and each one of them, things work a little different. You have the yellow map. You typically will have 2 yellow maps. You'll have one real aggressive that you always try to get the maximum you can out. You have one that maybe will run 5 or 6 cylinders out of the 8, and then you have anywhere from 100% fuel down to 90% fuel, and each one of them, when you're out there running, if you're really getting into a good groove, you might go to 90% throttle if you can, or 90% fuel, and what that'll do is it might give you a tenth to maybe 2/10 over a lap, and if you do that for 30 laps, it could be a huge number for you.
See Herta pulling down now, the indication that he will be coming into the pits as the pits will now be open, and you'll get a look from both Scheckter and Herta. Herta currently in second place, Scheckter currently in third, but that changing by the moment as they now make the pit stop.
Yeah, right at this point now is where they hit the tire or the timing, and they have to be right down to 60 miles an hour and run 60 all the way through.
They do have timing lines now all the way through, so that you can't fudge in between lines and, you know, maybe rev it up just for a brief stint and get a little quicker access.
Absolutely. Looks like another good stop for Thomas. Brian, looks like everything's going well. Looks like they're definitely going to do fuel and tires. He's down and away he goes. Exciting time right here. You can see cars around him everywhere.
Well, you talk about how split seconds count. 1 second lost in the pits can translate to 3-4 positions in this scramble coming back out onto the racetrack.
Absolutely. Same situation there with a couple of the leaders that came in. They had to take more fuel. For example, Brian Herta, he came in first and he went back out in 5th. The reason for that is the cars behind him didn't have to take as much fuel. So they had about a 1 second quicker pit stop. That's why they're out in front of the race now.
I understand that Scott Sharp will be pitting again for tires on this lap.
They're struggling a little bit right now. For some reason, you can see it on a couple of the onboards earlier on. He really had to get out of it. Looks like the car is just not working quite to what Scott likes.
Don't worry about it.
Oh, I just heard something too. It almost sounded like they had a wheel gun failure when he came in the first time, so he's going to come back in and get new tires.
Crew doing a little cheerleading there, saying, don't worry about it.
Easy.
But just listen, see if we pick up any more here on the radio.
All clear, all clear. Back to 2. Okay, this step's got the plus half right rear, and you still have the plus a third. I think that's okay, though. And
so you heard the communication from the pits to Scott Sharp as he goes back out, and we'll catch up with the pack.
That was John Ward that you heard on the radio, and he's Scott Sharp's engineer. And basically, I think what he was saying is the stagger on these tires is just slightly different. They also went up a little bit on the oil. I mean, on the tire pressures as well. So I think they're just trying to do a couple things, try different things right now early on in the race to try to get that car working to its optimum.
Let's go back and take a look at a replay here, and you'll see Scott Sharp reaching up and tearing off one of those little filmy strips. They're just called tear-offs on his helmet. How many times do you do that over the course of a race the length of this one?
Typically on a 300-miler like this, you have about 4 or 5 tear-offs. In the Indianapolis 500, we have closer to 8. It's real tough to do to get any more than that, because then you start losing your vision. It starts to get a little blurred.
And that's on a paved racetrack. You think about the sprint and midget drivers on the dirt tracks who go through tear-offs by the dozen sometimes in the course of a 25 or 30 lap main event.
I'll tell you what, my very first race at Indy, I went up there to pull a tear-off, and I was doing about 220 miles an hour. My hand hit my face mask really hard.
There's the look through a visor on the Tony Kanaan helmet cam. And you get a feel for the banking there a little bit as you come into the corner. We're bringing them up to speed. The green flag is out, and we're underway after our second yellow. And we've got a bit of a traffic jam here as you ride with Tony. Now on board with Danica, 3 wide. Remember, she has not done this This is her first real oval experience. She's had tests, but very few opportunities to run in traffic.
She's doing a very good job there. She's holding her line. She's not being bullied by anybody. Obviously, one car or two cars went by her. She was in the lead to begin with on that restart. So I think she's doing very good for her first restart as a leader, and things are going good.
That's Roger Yasukawa, the number 24 car, who just got by on the outside line. Tony Kanaan is now our race leader. You can see some sparks up in the corner, car bottoming out. Is that a heavy fuel load that makes that happen, Jacques?
It is a heavy fuel load and low tire pressures. Once about a lap and a half is usually about what it takes. The tire pressures will go up, the car will stop bottoming out, and it'll be right back to where it needs to be.
Oh, here we are, literally about 1.5 feet, maybe 2 feet apart, maybe less than that.
We just got traffic everywhere. I think now we're on board with...
This is Carpentier.
Carpentier, same thing. He's just kind of getting comfortable with the cars around him. Obviously, it looked like one of the cars got a good run on the outside. He just has to be real comfortable. Schechter going by now. It's all about getting the momentum on a restart. Unfortunately, cautions breed cautions.
We've got another caution. Yep. Let's check and see if we can find out what the reason is for this caution. It's debris again, and we're told it is in turn number 1. So our third caution comes lap 42. Is it frustrating as a driver when you're so pumped and ready for that restart and you go, and then you got to get back out of the throttle and kind of go through the whole think it through process again?
It is. It's truly an art. We saw it with Tony. I mean, he is one of the best at the restarts. He's always quick on there. He knows exactly when to go. It's tough when you, especially in this part of the race right now. We've had a couple yellows now. There's no momentum. There's no consistency here. So the drivers are trying to figure out exactly what they need to do with their cars, but unfortunately, they're not running a long enough stint to know exactly what their car is going to do over the long run. So this is where you talk to your engineer. You're telling them, okay, I was out there for a lap and a half. This is what the car was doing. They're saying, okay, that's kind of what we expected. No, but other than that, it was so short that you really have to wait till the next restart.
We're going to go back and take a look at that last stop by Scott Sharp. We understand that he actually went to the wrong box. He apparently missed his own pit and waved him through. Yeah, he pulled in to Thomas Enge's pit. He found his way home. Well, that's a kind of a new adventure at the start of a new season when you're with a new team, and maybe the old familiar habits, how you got into the pit, have been changed.
Yeah, unfortunately, that was definitely a miscommunication. As the driver, you should always know exactly where you are, and you have a spotter up on top of the grandstands that should always count you down, and that's something that obviously it's early on. The race was under yellow. It's not a real big issue, but they'll get that situation taken care of from here on out.
Well, the color schemes are somewhat near. They're not identical, but they are similar, and that may have added somewhat to that bit of confusion for Scott Sharp. Well, we have 44 complete. We're under our third yellow. We are in Homestead-Miami, Florida, watching the IndyCar season opener, and we're going to break away. Here are the leaders, the top 5 positions at the moment. Well, we hope you'll join us here on ESPN2 in 2 weeks for the NHRA Powerade Series. Mac Tool's Gator Nationals from Gainesville, Florida. Two-time defending champion Greg Anderson currently 10th in pro stock points after a couple of events, and he's looking to get back on track after a record-breaking season in 04. Don't miss the qualifying action Saturday night, March 19th, 12:30. Final elimination Sunday at 5. And for more, log on to ESPN.com. Well, Danica Patrick, we had talked a lot about her and her debut, currently in 12th place. Tony Kanaan is our race leader. Here's the view from Danica's car. And I know yesterday in hearing her talk to various reporters after qualifying, she was making a point. She said, I don't want to do anything silly that people would look and laugh about. She said, I want to be competitive. I want to keep my nose clean. And above all, I want to finish the race. And I suppose that's good advice for any newcomer to any racing series.
Absolutely. She really needs, more than probably anybody, she needs to build momentum. She needs to get some experience, understand what these restarts are like, understand the pit stops, and make it the entire race.
You saw her get on the throttle there and then have to get out of it as the pace started to pick up on the backstretch. We believe we're going green this next time by. Here's our race leader, Tony Kanaan. He is the defending series champion, and he brings them out of turn 4 onto the front straightaway.
Now we're on board Schechter. He's diving to the inside. Looks like he's going to pick up at least one spot. It's kind of tough because now he gets into the corner. There's a dirty air in front of him where Dan Weldon on the outside there, he has clean air.
And those Penske cars up in front challenging Kanaan for the race lead. Now we're riding with Scott Dixon. Dixon won here in 2003. Remember, he and Sam Hornish are the only IRL drivers who have won in the 4 previous events.
Now, Patrice trying to find a good clean line to go around. He's been very quick all day. Looks like he's got a really good car, really consistent car. He's just trying to find the correct line to get around. He just went by A.J. Foyt there.
Back with Kanaan, you can see he has dropped back now into 4th position. Castro Neves, Hornish, and Weldon are now in front of Tony Kanaan.
See Dan's car kind of scraping a little bit up there. He's trying to get back in line because, again, the bottom line, because of the circumference of the racetrack, is definitely quicker.
You got 2 Toyotas up there, and then you got the Honda power for Weldon. Kanaan is Honda powered. Schechter driving Chevrolet powered, listed in 5th position. And there you see Schechter in the brilliant Pennzoil yellow. Take a look at some Firestone telemetry, give you a feel for what the drivers are experiencing. You see the speed, the G loading as they go into the corners. Watch that number drop up or jump up into the mid 3. Now even touches on 4 and a little over 4. And then, of course, you see the throttle. And for the most part, 98 to 100%. It's just a very delicate lift once in a while off the throttle.
Yeah, it's a real delicate dance that when you go through the corner, when there's a bunch of cars with dirty air in front of you. If you go too much, obviously the car's going to want to go loose on you. If you go too little, then these cars are really hard to get the momentum back up. You got to basically be flat on them all the time. If not, you lose so much momentum, and it just takes so much time to wind back up again.
214, 216. A quick look there on the Firestone telemetry on the straightaway. Jacques, if you hit the rev limiter by any chance, and remember that in the IRL, the regulation is 10,300 RPM. If you hit it, how much momentum do you lose? How long does it take to gain it back?
What they do now is they actually have a hard limiter, and each team or each engine manufacturer actually creates what they call a soft limiter. Usually we engage that at about 10.2. And what that'll do is it'll slow the RPMs down a little bit. It won't let you ramp up to the 10.3 so much. If you hit the 10.3 hard limiter, it's almost like hitting a wall. It really slows the car down. It turns the ignition off for, I think, about a second. And what happens is it takes so much time for everything to ramp back up that you lose about 3.5 to 4 miles an hour over about a full second.
This is interesting here, watching the Aussie rookie Ryan Briscoe at number 33, inside outside behind Danica Patrick, now falling back just a little bit, but he looked like he wanted to make a run and gain a position.
Yeah, he definitely wanted to work. Now we're now on board with Scott Sharp here, right outside of Darren Mann. It looks like they got that car working a little better. It was real happy on the high side of turn 4 there.
Still there.
See a contrast in Sharp's last lap and the leader's last lap.
Clear all around. Nice job. Way to stay with us.
You hear the spotter in conversation. If you have a new spotter, does it take a long time or several events to get adjusted to the cadence or the way he gives you information?
It definitely does. We have to remember that we've had 2 open tests so far, so they've had the opportunity to work together to be around some of the other competitors and really sit down back in the coach and say, hey, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. It's all about communication. You have to be able to communicate with your team.
I'm watching those wheels get closer together here as they ride side by side. Remember now, they're going better than 210 miles per hour. Schechter and Hornish. We're talking about spotters. How important, particularly for the newcomers, the rookies in this series?
I think it's crucial because you're out there and there's so much that you're trying to absorb about what's going on during the race. It's nice to have somebody, especially maybe an ex-racer or an old retired racer, that can really sit down and say, okay, I'm going to help you. This line looks to be a little bit quicker on the high side. This line looks to be a little quicker on the low side. So it's great when you have somebody you can really trust, and especially when you start getting as close as we are these days, it's nice to have somebody there to communicate with you.
We're talking about the speeds well in excess of 210 miles per hour, 212 last lap for Dan Weldon. We had an opportunity to talk to Thomas Schechter and ask him about what it's like to race these cars at these speeds here at Homestead-Miami.
For sure, I mean, we've got good racing, and sometimes, yeah, it's close contact, but we're racing, and that's what it's about sometimes. And going 3 wide, I think you'll see it maybe quite a bit on Sunday, and that's what the fans enjoy, and that's what we give them. You're on the edge all the time. You got cars around you all the time. You're thinking about strategy. You're never driving the same for 2 laps in a row, and it's unbelievably draining mentally to race around you.
I think he brings up a great point about the mental concentration that it takes and how it has to be sustained, because there's no forgiveness factor whatsoever.
No, there really isn't. At 210 miles an hour, you're traveling the length of a football field every second. So in that 1 second where you could lapse, your concentration is all it takes to be in the wall. So without a doubt, you are fully on concentration the moment they say, gentlemen, start your engines, to the moment the checkered flag drops.
See the battle for the lead between Weldon and Helio Castroneves on the left side of the screen. We continue to ride with Thomas Schechter, who is in 3rd place, and you see those 2 cars just up ahead of him. A little separation of about 1.5 car lengths between Dan Weldon and Helio Castroneves. Castroneves won the season-ending race in 2004 in Texas, so he had high hopes coming in this year. His teammate Hornish won this race to open the season in 2004. But in between, there was a lot of frustration for the Penske team, and I think that surprised a few folks, because Roger is now in his 40th year of IndyCar racing, but we've got yellow. We've got a yellow here. Try to get back to that thought at a future opportunity, and we do have a problem on the racetrack. Ryan Briscoe, we are told, is the victim here. He had a shunt with the wall in practice this weekend and did some damage to the rear of the car, and apparently has done the same thing. We don't know if anybody else was involved or not. Certainly hope that he is all right. Former Formula One test driver being added as the 3rd driver for Chip Ganassi's team. The thing you always have to realize, and Jacques, I know you've experienced this in the past, the speeds we're talking about, there are no small hits.
No, there definitely isn't. It's great what the IRL safety has done. Obviously, they're making sure these are the greatest safety workers in the world. They are there. Usually, by the time the car comes to a stop, they're already there. And you can see there, they got Ryan out of the car. They're just making sure he's okay. Looks like we're going to go to a replay here and see exactly what happened to him. He just got into that dirty air that I was talking about. And you can see the back of the car all of a sudden comes around, and you're right. That is, we do have a safer barrier around here, but that is still a very big hit. And luckily now, what I was trying to say was, each one of these cars, just to the left-hand side, right down over here, there is a new system that the safety crew does. And if you have a hit big enough, they'll put up lights, and certain different color lights, and it really lets the safety workers know exactly how hard your hit was.
Gives it an idea of the G-load on impact. And amazingly, I mean, if you're not familiar with racing, there are times when you'll see these tremendous numbers, a 100 G hit, and there is a barrier, a standard that is set, as Jacques mentions, and so that safety crew comes up there. If they see that that light's been activated, they know that it's been a very heavy impact. And in this case, we saw the young 23-year-old Australian driver able to climb out, and we're happy to report that, our first contact incident of the afternoon.
Absolutely.
So we're yellow for the 4th time in this one.
Now on board with Thomas, and you can see Thomas with his right thumb. He's working his radio, telling his crew exactly what's going on with the car, what kind of changes he would like. Now he's going back to a map where ideally it'll be better for getting in and out of the pits.
Make the move now toward the pits. You see the safety vehicle staying out there. They run kind of in tandem with that, and then once they cross the line at pit entry. It's a very strictly enforced 60-mile-per-hour speed limit. That's been the standard in recent years in the IndyCar Series. Right there as they go by those barrels. Now the 60-mile limit is in effect. Scheckter and Kanaan will give us onboard looks as they peel off. Scheckter, one of the early entries into the pits. His service is complete. Kanaan now. See down here, we were talking about that single point refueling. A chance to look at just one unit now. That's mandatory this year. Report of a tire. Well, you can see it over here on the other side.
Right
Sam
up there.
Hornish may have clipped Scott Sharp, we're being told, and that may be where that came from. Wow. They get it back. Apparently, once it got out there, everybody managed to avoid it, and so no serious or further complications. Let's go back now and see if we can get a look at what happened here on pit road.
Yeah, you could see it. Sam did clip just right at the very last second, clip the right rear changing tire for, I think that was for Dixon.
Here is Sharp back out on the racetrack.
You can see all these buttons that are on the steering wheel, all the different knobs. There's many different things that we have at our capacity to change these things. We have basically one knob will be for fuel that I've been talking about. Another knob might be for a different traction control or a different setting to leave the pits. Sometimes you get bogged into a pit and the pits are so tight that you really have to hit it hard.
Can you identify like that red button is?
That red button over there, it almost looks more like that would have been for his pit speed. And the green one is probably for him to talk on the radio. Here, we're back on Thomas Scheckter. The blue one over here, that is definitely for his fuel. The one over on the left would be more for, I'm guessing, would probably be different settings on the engine map. And then there's one more down on the red, very, very, very bottom down here is a red one. And what that one would be for is what I was saying, different settings for traction control. In case you have a problem, they always have a different setting where it's kind of like a default for the electrical on the engine.
How much information is actually, I've seen readouts on in about like right across in here.
Yeah.
What kind of information do you get when you read out? Is it strictly numerical information?
It is strictly numerical. They'll tell you, you can tell oil temperature, RPMs, just about anything you could possibly want to know. You could even figure out exactly how much pressure you have in your right front tire, if that's something you're concerned with. They can send you the telemetry. Basically, every single one of these cars has a box, a telemetry box that sends it back to the pits, and then they can put it back onto the computer and tell you exactly what's going on that dash.
Let's check in now. We're going to go back and get a replay with Scott Sharp talking about what happened in that pit situation.
Then I hear you again. They were saying to move us to the back of the line, but that Penske car absolutely hit that tire. We didn't lose control of it. Okay, thanks, Jeff.
All right, well, there you get a look at it. You saw it circled where the incident happened, and of course, they're telling Scott that they absolutely didn't lose control of the tire, that the Penske driver struck it. That's one version. There's always a second or a third version, it seems like. And Brian Barnhart and the officials have to make a distinction or some type of a ruling when they look at all the available data and determine whether or not somebody ends up being penalized.
Yeah, it's tough because you only have so much room in the box. Sometimes people put the tires out a little bit, and really gives you nothing you can do as the other driver but hit the tire. And I think that's kind of maybe what they said, because they were saying that they needed to put Scott Sharp back to the end of the field because I think they felt that the tire was out of the box.
Helio Castroneves is our leader. We look through the helmet cam of Tony Kanaan. Kanaan currently in 6th place.
with this dash, especially this view, you can see right here in the middle is a screen, and what that screen does, it'll give you your gear position. Next to that, on each side, there's different colored lights.
We had an opportunity this weekend, Jock, to ask Scott Sharp about the degree of concentration it takes to run these cars at the tremendous speeds.
Very often, for large parts of the race, you can have a guy, 2 inches to your left and a guy 2 inches to your right. And you just have to really make your car as tidy as you can make it. And you're always trying to advance, you're trying to take advantage of holes that open, trying to find the right groove for your car. Some guys really love to run up top. Some guys really, the car's unhappy up there. They want to run on the bottom. So I think it's total concentration on oval. There just really is, obviously, when you look at the track, no margin for error.
And that's the key right there. There is no margin for error. And it doesn't have to be at 200+ miles per hour on the track. It may be at 30 miles per hour leaving your pits. And certainly an interesting situation there. Now we're getting ready to go green. Here the revs come up. We ride with Scheckter now.
Looks like he's got a good run on Sam Hornish there. He's going to the outside. He's got a car in front of him, which he's been able to pick up a little bit of a draft from.
Scheckter taking over that third spot, or is he? Hornish answers back on the low side.
There's two different lines here, and obviously when they go into the corner, you can see that the smaller circumference on the bottom, usually you'll be able to get around the corner a little quicker. However, the top line, you always can't carry more momentum around the track, so typically that's why you'll see a quicker lap on the outside in this type of situation. However, the circumference of the track is longer, so it all kind of plays out.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting stuff, and again, they kind of inch toward each other. Oh, my. And all of this is just a half second behind the leaders, Dan Weldon and Elio Castroneves. And look who's here. Brian Herta says, I want to be part of the party. You always get a little more pack racing after these restarts, and that changes the dynamics a lot, doesn't it?
It really does. Everybody's coming up to speed. Everybody knows that this is typically the best time to make up position. So everybody just kind of pulls their seatbelts a little bit tighter, and here we go. We're going to make up 1 or 2 spots.
And Hornish is not going away either. Scheckter hanging on to that position. Now on board with Tony Kanaan. Kanaan is right behind that duo in 5th place. Oh, poking his nose down on the inside line is Tony Kanaan as he tries to draw alongside Sam Hornish. He has room. He makes the pass.
Or did he?
Hanging on to it for the moment. Back on board with Sharp. Listed in 10th position at the moment.
Inside, still there, still there, still there. Coming back, still there. Clear behind him.
Danica Patrick on the inside. Listed in 16th position.
Really interesting to watch everybody hunt around looking for that clean air.
Boy, and what a change in this racetrack. When you can see him go 3 wide and you consider what it was in the early formative years here, then you have to give credit to the promoters and the operators of this track for having the courage to step up and say, okay, we can make this a lot better. They had to spend a lot of money to make it a lot better, but they certainly have succeeded.
And what's really incredible is they were still able to keep the characteristic. It's almost like a paper clip. It's got really long straightaways and really long, tight corners, and it's great to see that they still kept the same characteristic.
Well, and that led to that concern we were talking about from Firestone with the tires, but there's been no inkling or indication of any problems. They had an open test here. They ran 3,200 laps with no major or significant concerns for any of the teams involved. Here's the shift by Tony Kanaan. You saw that little wiggle, and again, I assume that's that dirty air you were talking about a little while earlier.
Absolutely, and you can see how much he lost on the track just by having to lift just for that quick second. It was enough to put him back into the grasp of, I believe that is Sam Hornish there.
And here comes Hornish again. This is great when you get the double boxes. You can see actually how much distance between them, realizing the onboard camera, the shot, sometimes it looks like a further margin than it is. And the speeds. 215 miles per hour won the pole for Thomas Scheckter. Race laps here being run by Kanaan and Hornish. 2:10.8 and 2:11.9 last time around. Dixon and number 9 on the inside, and Carpentier riding with him, number 83. Patrick is now in 14th position, Dixon in the 13th spot. Sneaking up on the halfway point of a season opening race here on a 1.5-mile oval, the first of 17 stops for these teams and drivers in 2005. This is the 10th anniversary year for the Indy Racing League IndyCar Series.
Got both of the Red Bull Cheever cars there that try and take over from Dixon. We're on board with Dixon right there, and you can see that you're just, even though you're getting a draft there, these cars are so equal. You're just fighting for inches out there.
Can teammates help each other on this type of a track?
Oh, they definitely can. You can work together, and obviously two cars will always go faster when they're drafting than a single car. So you can work together as a team. We see that Carpentier is going to the outside here. Ideally, Alex Barron could jump in behind him and kind of help push the car along a little bit, and that might be all it takes to get around Scott Dixon. But I guess he wants a spot instead.
On the super speedways, you talk a lot about drafting. This is not considered a super speedway, even though we're running in excess of 210 miles per hour. I don't know how you exactly differentiate, but my hat is off to you, Jacques, and anybody who climbs into the cockpit of one of these cars. And this today is really giving you such a good feel. Now look at this here as the Penske car comes sneaking right up here once again on Scheckter. That's Helio Castroneves. And this is the look Tony Kanaan has right in front of it. Nobody's running away. Nobody is dominating this event. It's still very much wide open after 88 of 200 laps. And you have to go all the way back to the 7th position before there's more than a 2-second interval. This is Dan Weldon on the left side of the screen. He is the race leader. He's got himself about 9/10 of a second advantage on the last lap.
And you can see behind, they're jumping out a little bit up behind Thomas Scheckter, but at the same time, it doesn't look like anybody really is trying to make a pass. We're 89 laps into a 200-lap race. Everybody's just kind of getting through this stint. You want to get through this fuel stint and get ready for the end of the race.
Just a little bit of a wiggle by Castroneves there for a moment. Now we've got an intruder. Here comes Sam Hornish up here alongside Tony Kanaan. Boy, they just keep hammering on each other, don't they?
You really do. When you get an opportunity to make a pass, you got to be ready for it, because everybody is the competition is so tight out there. Obviously, in qualifying, we had just a couple tenths of a second that separated the field. So, as you can see from this, everybody's working. You have to get out of it a little bit. That's all it takes for the car behind you to go around you.
We talk about these speeds rather casually And yet I wonder, I've heard race car drivers say sometimes, and maybe this gives us a sense of it, that things seem to slow down. Do you experience that at all when you're running here? Do you reference all the things blurring by? How would you express that sensation?
That's one thing I was always told not to do, is do not look at the stands. Because if you start looking at the stands, you can start getting a little bit confused. The colors are going by so incredibly fast. When you really kind of get into a zone, it does seem like it slows down because you're concentrating on the car in front of you, the car next to you, the car behind you. You really never, I mean, you're just slowing down so much.
Excuse me here, Jacques. We'll try to find out what the problem is.
Hey guys, let's get some water.
See one car headed down under the pits from the back straightaway, and that looks like Buddy Rice, who is headed toward pit road.
Hey, watch, you're going to have Sharps guys behind you there.
Got to see some smoke coming out of the back there.
Saw Bobby Rahal briefly standing, watching now as the defending Indy 500 champion, who was involved in the championship chase right down to the last couple of events of last season, brings it into the pits. Take a look now from Scott Sharp's car. Oh yeah, there's that telltale vapor of some type coming from the back of Buddy Rice, and usually when you see that, you figure your day is over.
That's tough because he was moving up too. That whole team, just with Vitor as well, they've been kind of sitting back there biding their time. It looked like the cars were working pretty well.
Yeah, we understand that Rice and Sharp and some of those guys had teamed up. They were trying to hook up and conserve some fuel in the process, but for Buddy it looks like it may be lights out on this one here, the season opener.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a lot of desperation from the crew, so they probably know that it is a terminal situation. They might go back out there, see if they can't do a few changes to make it clear itself up, but anytime you have smoke coming out like that, it's not looking real good.
6 laps short of the halfway mark, and you can see cars have dropped down now off the backstretch onto the entry into the pits. So we'll get another opportunity here to look at some pit action. Remember, Schechter has one of the early pits. Here's Tony Kanaan, who's farther down. This is an overhead view that we haven't seen thus far of his pit on the left-hand side of the screen.
This will really give you an idea of what a ballet this is between car and team.
And they pounce. We talked about that single point fueling apparatus. It's much heavier than in the past, and you really have to be accurate to get it to engage, and it's a very delicate job, kind of a bulky job at the same time that the fueler has, but they pulled it off beautifully, it appears.
But I think long term it's going to make the safety significantly
Like I
safer.
press when I'm wide open, I'll press my
We're going to go back here.
I'll press my
Hang on just a second.
button, and sometimes it'll just turn off. And then just now, the last 2 pit stops, the pit speed limiter while I was in the pits, while I was getting serviced, just turned off.
That's a live conversation with Scott.
Okay, Honda looking at that right now.
Last couple times I used my overtake button, it stayed on. But prior to that, I hit it a few times, and by the time I got into the corner, and I was definitely wide open, it just turned off.
Now, a moment ago, Jacques, I'm just going to interrupt you for a second. We're going to go back here and listen to a prior conversation from Scott Sharp to his pits.
Catch that group in front and then save. Catch the group in front, then save. They're tucked in behind Rice there. You guys draft up there a little bit. Maybe you'll get a little fuel save that way.
Well, that was just prior to the yellow flag scenario, our 5th of the day. And as we approach the midpoint of this competition, if you're just joining us, this is a unique, experimental, if you will, type of broadcast. It supplements the traditional coverage on ESPN. I'm Gary Gerald. Jacques Lazier, who has just been so kind to step in literally on 45 minutes notice to replace a flu-ridden Kenny Breck. And we appreciate so much your being here, and you're giving us great insights and a great feel into what these drivers are experiencing. We'll take a look at the running order crawling across the screen. Dan Weldon, Helio Castroneves, Sam Hornish in the top 3 spots, joined by Thomas Scheckter and Vitor Meira. Glad to have you along. It's always fun when you open a new IndyCar racing season. Tonight on ESPN, NBA Sunday brings you an Eastern Conference matchup as the Miami Heat take on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Miami now on a 4-game win streak. The Cavaliers trying to break out of a 5-game tailspin. That's NBA Sunday on ESPN tonight at 7:30 Eastern. For more, log on to ESPN.com. Drivers have just been given the 1-to-go indication as we will get back to green shortly. The helmet camera from Tony Kanaan. Tony currently running in 6th place. This is the 5th time today that they have had a break. This time we're just going to sit back now. We'll listen to the revs come up, and we'll just listen to the sounds here as we restart racing competition at Homestead-Miami.
Well, they waved that one off.
Backed out of it. Yep. We're going to wait for another moment, or at least another lap. Well, while we await the restart, let's check in on a conversation just moments ago with Buddy Rice.
Buddy, I heard the crew say there was a lot of oil spray inside the car. Did you have any indication there was a problem?
No, I mean, I think on the lap before it blew up, I started to smell something. I rated it in, and as we went down the back straightaway, it slowly got really strong, and then obviously as we came down the front, you could see the smoke coming out the rear, so not really sure exactly what happened, and we'll go back and evaluate and get ready for Phoenix.
You moved up into the pack, and then you slipped back into 15. Did you have a little bit of a restart issue on one of the restarts after a yellow?
No, we moved back. We came in for gas and tires, and we had an extra set of tires that we'd been saving, so we weren't concerned, so we thought we'd put new tires on. We could get right up into the top, get up into 5th, 6th spot, and we're just kind of hanging out to see what was going to happen, and then just, just kind of the accordion thing kind of happening, and really, the car wasn't that bad. We were making changes, getting better, and we were just waiting for towards the latter part of the race to really start making try to make a big run to the front if we could.
About the track conditions, the racing seems incredibly close.
It's definitely changing. As we're running, it's the band's getting a lot wider for the groove, so I think last 50 laps, 40 laps, it's going to be 2 or 3 wide the whole time. It'll be pretty stout, but the cars that are set up good are going to stay at the front, and I think there's 5 or 6 cars that are pretty stout.
Let's go to Jamie Little.
Well, we'll check back with our broadcast here. You've seen the restart, and boy, we've got all kinds of contenders up front. Kanaan making a move on Scheckter. Dan Weldon is still the leader, but the Penske drivers, Castroneves and Hornish, are right there. Then Kanaan, Scheckter, Scott Sharp, just past the halfway points of this competition.
Big lift there from Tony Kanaan.
In 7th spot.
Now on board with Scott Sharp. He's having a good run. He's moved up to 6th.
See at the various intervals where he has been. Started 6th, then was back there 14th, 11th, 10th. Now 6th position. And looking strong, and look, oh my goodness, that was close. That may have been the closest call of the day.
Coming back, still there. Let him clear behind him.
Now, Jacques, when you get that close, do you get any sensation? Do you feel the air? Does the car want to do anything different?
I think more than anything, you just kind of take a big breath and say, come on, stay down there. And, sure enough, they did. And it happens quite often because all the dirty air we were talking about, the car in front of you slides up a little bit. You just got to be able to give your fellow competitor out there enough room to dance, because it is a ballet between 2 cars.
Just looking outside, not there yet, clear all around.
Slight tailwind here And as they go through turns 1 and 2, they'll move into the breeze that has now got the flag straight out on the backstretch. It's not an extreme wind that you can frequently get at this racetrack, but I would imagine it does impact your handling characteristics just a bit.
It definitely will, because it'll change from corner to corner. From 1 and 2, the car might want to get a little loose. 3 and 4, it might want to push a little bit. But it does look like, from what we saw earlier with Scott Sharp, it looks like they've made the gains to that car. The car seems real comfortable. He's moved up to 6th place, as we were talking about, and definitely battling there with the leaders.
Yeah, he had some handling concerns.
Just closing up a bit on the inside. On your corner, clear all around. Looking outside, he's not there yet.
I'm going to go back here and just take a look at how close that was between Sharp and Kanai. That's maybe, what, 4 or 5 inches, something like that.
The thing you forget about is those are the front tires. They're skinnier than the rear tires. The rear tires stick out more.
Point.
So you can imagine if they were probably 6 to 8 inches off with the front tires there, they're probably closer to maybe 1 or 2 on the rear.
Firestone telemetry again. Speed, G-force, percentage of throttle use. A little arrow indicating the tire temperatures are in the green. After the restart, quickly getting back up to temperature.
Brian's having a good day too. Brian Herta's right behind Scott Sharp here. He's just kind of been easing at it, getting the car working the way he wants it, and now he's sitting 7th, and he's just kind of stalking him right now.
And right behind Brian is Roger Yasukawa as he returns to a full-time ride, and he's doing a nice job in the 8th position. Here is Brian Herta now. Looking out the back, you can see Yasukawa just behind him. Well, we talked earlier about Danica Patrick and the story, the interest that she has generated. She drives for the Rahal Letterman team, 22 years of age, no Indy or oval experience. Danica is currently running in 13th position. We had an opportunity to talk a bit with Danica this weekend about the challenges of being a woman in this high-speed sport.
Understand partly why I'm here is because I'm a female. I understand that it's attractive to sponsors. It's a selling point, and everybody's looking for something interesting to sell and something that gets everyone's attention, and I know I'm that person. There's a lot of good drivers out there, girls and guys, that don't get this chance, and I feel like I've used everything that I could outside of just being a good race car driver, because when it comes down to it, you have to prove yourself. You have to go fast, and that's just what you have to do. But everything else around it has created enough buzz to get me where I'm at.
Danica started racing at age 10. She raced in England at age 16. Last 2 years has been running in the Toyota Atlantic Series. She finished 3rd in points last year, earned a pole and a podium position, had 5 tests of the IRL car, and here she is now. Let's try to evaluate her performance shot.
Overall, I'm very impressed with her line, and I'm impressed with what she's doing today. I'm sure she has huge expectations on herself. She wants to be out there. She wants to be the first woman to win. I think she has the talent to do it. I think she has the capability with the team. I think she has the entire package. However, she's doing exactly what she needs to do today. She's learning. Everything's new to her, so she's learning about pit stops. She's learning about the speed. Everything changes when you get out there race day, and I think she's doing a fabulous job. She's running 13th right now. She's going to take this into the next couple races, and I think she'll be a very good complement to Buddy Rice and to Vitor Meirov with that team.
Second race will be coming up in Phoenix, and then the next week, Danica will celebrate her 23rd birthday. Back with Brian Herta now, 6th position. Looking off the back end of Scott Sharp, who is just ahead of Brian Herta. They have swapped positions. Are going slower up on the high side there. I think that was Paul Damon. currently in 18th place. Pretty good run here by Thomas Scheckter. He got there in the draft, and he just sucked right up on that rear wing.
The problem is once you get up there, you can see obviously Tony, the car in front of him, has a draft of the car in front of him. So you can get that initial toe and want to jump out to the outside, but the problem is then you hit that wall of air and the other car doesn't. So he kind of pulls back in front of you again.
It's amazing the little things that impact performance and position on the racetrack, and just a little wall of air. It doesn't seem like much when you talk about it, and yet it denied him the opportunity to gain a position.
You can't see, but you sure can feel it.
I bet. Weldon, Castroneves, Hornish, Kanaan, Scheckter, top 5 positions. Thomas Scheckter, we mentioned early when we started our broadcast today about all of his misfortune in 2004. I mean, when you don't finish 10 of 16 events, you got to feel a little bit like you're snake bit. But one big difference, I think, this year, Jacques, and I'd be interested in your thoughts about this. He and Thomas Enga, as his teammate for Panther Racing, are the only Chevy-powered race cars. We are told that Chevy has the exact same budget this year that they had last year, even though they are going to leave the competition after this season. But all of the efforts, all of that money is now being focused on one team.
I think that's definitely going to help the effort altogether. I think originally what was the problem was, you know, they were having some problems. The cars were always good. The engine was always good. They were a little bit down on horsepower last year. This is really going to allow them to focus in on doing 100% effort with this team. And as you can see this weekend, winning the pole, they're going to be extremely compatible this year.
There are those in the paddock who maintain as we start this new season that Honda still has a rather decisive horsepower edge on Toyota. Depending who you talk to, they say it's roughly around 20 horsepower difference. The Penske cars, however, are both Toyota-powered. Castroneves and Hornish currently running second and third. A Honda, driven by Weldon, is the leader. So right now under race conditions, we're seeing what appears to be great parity between Honda, Toyota, and Chevy.
Yeah, we definitely are, and I think that this is encouraging for the series for this year. I think we're the very first race we see, like you're saying, the top 3 engine or top 5 positions have 3 different engine manufacturers, so looks very good for the future.
You're getting to the point now with roughly 75, 76 laps to go. Drivers, I would assume, don't keep specific track of laps, but is there a point when you have to start talking to yourself to maintain focus or concentration, especially if you haven't been racing for 5 or 6 months?
Yeah, you got to remember that the crew's telling them exactly how many laps are to go. Every once in a while, it'll jump up on your dash how many laps are to go. Your spotter keeps calling you down, saying, "Okay, we have 75 laps to go in the race. We have another 5 laps to go in this stint before we have to come in for tire and fuel." So you are aware of it, but you know that there's a magical number when, okay, maybe it's with 40 laps to go. You know that that's when I'm going for it. That's when I'm going to make my charge to the front.
And over the years in this IndyCar Series, we have seen such amazing charges and racing over the final laps of so many different events. And that's one of the things that I find exciting about this particular venue now. As we mentioned, the multiple grooves, the degree of banking, and it has heightened the racing, where in the early years here, there was a tendency to get strung out. Exactly. We didn't see this close quarter racing at all.
This is what the IRL is all about. The high banks, lots of close wheel-to-wheel competition, high speeds. Very exciting.
We've had 5 cautions if you've just been joining us here. Nothing really serious. The only contact involved the Aussie rookie Ryan Briscoe. He was not injured. And we've got, I think, all of our onboard camera cars are still out here in competition. We started with 7, and they have accounted for themselves. We've got Kanaan in 4th place, Scheckter in 5th place, Herta in 7th, Sharp in 8th. Let me check on down the line. Danica Patrick is 12th. Patrick Carpentier is 15th. So that was one of our concerns, quite honestly. So what if something happened and 3 or 4 of your onboard camera cars fell by the wayside early on? Well, that has not happened, and knock on wood, it will not happen.
Again, all it takes is one little lift, and that's going to let the cars go around you.
Oh my, look at this. Once again, that's Hornish in the number 6. Schechter. Oh, every time I just kind of collect, wince, groan, whatever.
Looks like the freeway, but at 210 miles an hour.
Fastest lap for Tony Kanaan was 214. Last lap at 210.5, and you don't know if they're trying to conserve a little bit of fuel. We are projecting the next fuel stop or pit window at around 150 to 155, which would certainly leave them within distance of going to the end if we had no further yellow. So some of these teams may be stretching it just a little bit. One thing about Dan Weldon, though, I mean, he's been stout as the race leader regardless of what the pace is. If it's been 212 or 210 or 29, he's still out there in front. Now, what kind of a gesture? We saw something there from the cockpit of Helio Castroneves. Any idea what that might have been about?
What he was saying right there is, let's work together to get the car in front of us. Right now, Dan Weldon's pulling out to a little bit of lead. He's got almost a 2.5-second lead. So he's saying, hey, instead of fighting with me, let's work together. We'll go back up there and catch Dan Weldon and turn it into a three-way battle rather than a one-horse race.
Do you think that's good strategy?
I think it's definitely good strategy. It'll be interesting to see if they work together. Right now, they're definitely not wanting to work together.
Maybe we can go back here, and our great crew in the truck here will give us a look. Yeah. You can see exactly how he's saying, let's get, line up.
Stay in a line. Let's work together here.
Maybe we can eat into that, because right now, Weldon has opened up about 2.5-second lead on this pack.
Now they're definitely staying together in a line.
Staying together. Castroneves gets his wish. Let's see now. We'll keep an eye on the interval and see if they can shrink it down from what was 2.6 seconds on the last lap. Well, you've got such great characters in this series. I'm just thinking about the personalities of these two drivers here that we're featuring in these boxes. And then you draw back Tony Kanaan in a bit of traffic because he's got Roger Yasukawa now directly in front of him. But we talk about personalities of the characters. You've got the flamboyance of Castroneves and his Brazilian nature, the South African in Schechter, who is pretty emotional and I don't want to say off the wall, but he's a character. I mean, and it's great to have characters in this series who have such great racing talent.
Absolutely, and they are working well together because they've knocked off about a half a second or half a tenth of a second. So by working together, hopefully they will be able to go up there and catch Dan Weldon and make a three-horse race out of it.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm really impressed with what Roger Yasukawa has been doing because this is a race for position. They are battling for 5th place. And we're going to drop back here, and you see Darren Manning in number 10 from the seat of Danica Patrick. Danica in 12th position.
Getting a good tow there off of Darren's car and try to pass him on the high side. .208.5 miles per hour for those two at the moment. Separation, meanwhile, up front, 2.3 seconds, so they are inching into it just a bit after Schechter and Hornish hooked up. I'll say I'm very impressed with Danica right now. She's running 11th. I think she's doing exactly what she needed to do.
Let's go back and grab a radio conversation now from Scott Sharp talking about fuel and how far he may be able to go before he has to visit the pits.
That fuel mileage is looking good there. 265 to 27 looks good to us. More if you can get it.
Now, 26, 27, riding in the draft. Obviously, they're in a conservation mode. They like that. If you're the leader, if you're Dan Weldon, you're not getting that kind of mileage, are you?
You are definitely not getting that kind of mileage. I think he's probably getting 2.4, maybe a little less than that. 2.4, 2.3.5.
for keeping an eye up there. Weldon on the last lap started to pick up the pace. He'd been running about 1.5 miles slower than the guys trying to track him down. Schechter and Hornish have closed to within 2 seconds. You ride with Scott Sharp. Sharp is in the 9th position, and again we check out our Firestone telemetry. See that little delicate dance on the throttle, 99%, getting through the corner now, on and off, and back to 100%.
2.6. A lot of G-forces there in the corner too. We're seeing up to 4 Gs, which is obviously 4 times the force of gravity working on you. And it's with these type of banking and the turns, it's a kind of an awkward feeling too, because it's not only vertical, it's also horizontal.
Drives you down in the seat, right?
Down and out.
And when we talk about a G, it's 4 times your weight being pushed down if it's 4 Gs, and it's hard to experience that for those of us who don't race these cars. I've had a couple of opportunities to be in cars, and you feel that G load and you suddenly realize how much more physical this racing is than it would appear as you ride along and you see this smooth ride here for Brian Herta.
Yeah, and he actually is having a very smooth ride. Looks like his car is working just the way he wants it to. I'm sure Michael has told him kind of a game plan. That team is a very strong team. They always have a game plan, what each car is going to do. And I think Brian right now is very happy with what his game plan is.
We are anticipating that within the next 5 laps or so, we may be seeing green flag stops, keeping in mind that all of our previous pit action today, for the most part, with the bulk of the cars, has been under yellow. We have had 5 yellows, only 1 involving contact. That was Ryan Briscoe, who was uninjured. Got into some dirty air, looped it, and backed it into the wall, but he was able to climb out under his own power.
Yeah, we got both of the Cheever cars here, Red Bull Cheever cars, and they're basically 6 seconds off from Scott Dixon in front of them, and they're also battling a little bit.
Here's Herta into the pits. The last pit stops came on lap 94. That was under yellow, and they had a few laps before they went back to green. Let's watch this stop now. Revs come up, and now they stall it. Yeah, they stalled it. It looked like the fueler tried to disengage and nothing happened, and then they stalled, and now got to refire. But under green, that handful of seconds is really costly.
I think what you saw there was the difference between the first race of the year and the end of the race of the year. As soon as the car went down, Brian Herta is thinking, okay, I'm ready to go, but they had to wait for the fuel, and that was enough to take it to stall.
All right, here's the look. Schechter is now getting serviced for presumably the last time. 52 laps to go. There's the fuel incomplete. They want to make sure that they get all 30 gallons on board now, that he can make it the rest of the way. Danica Patrick. Remember, pit stops are totally new to her. Talked with Ray Lito of their team yesterday, and they, of course, practice countless pit stops, but practice pit stops and pit stops under competition, I would think, would be 2 totally different beasts.
Very, very good pit stop there.
And Scott Dixon. The Ganassi team at work.
Boy, is it busy under green.
Well, that looks very, very nice. Well executed. And this is Patrick Carpentier. Red Bull Cheever Racing Team. Next one coming in will be Scott Sharp. Sam Hornish Jr. has taken over the lead. Tony Kanaan second. Sharp listed third, but he is now in. Let's listen on the radio.
Easy, easy, easy. Fuel, and this is new tires going on. These are new tires, stickers. All clear, all clear. Let's hustle up. Watch your tires, watch your tires.
What an interesting contrast in pit stops, Jacques, because of coming under green, you don't have as much congestion around you, but you still have to be precise. Sharp found the right pit that time.
You're clear behind.
When you're under yellow and everybody comes in at once, then it becomes a different kind of a scramble.
It really does. They're two totally different scrambles. The biggest scramble is what Scott's going through right now. He just made the pit stop, and he has to get out and run the absolute fastest, hardest lap that he possibly can. Under green, you have to do it that way. Under yellow, it's more up to the crew. You get in there, everybody's kind of tied in, nose to tail, and then it's just basically you pull into your pits, the crew gets the work done, and you try to get out. So under green, it's the lap in and the lap out is where you can really make up all your time.
On the high side, Schechter looked like he had the pass, but Kanaan underneath gets it right back, and now those wheels literally just a few inches apart there for a moment. And now,
under caution.
We've gone yellow. That's what I say. He just suddenly jumped out of the throt. This is going to be for a track inspection, we understand, from the control center here high atop the grandstand. Could be something to do with the 14 car of A.J. Foyt the fourth. Plus one radio indication. This is our 6th yellow of the day. Apparently there were observers saying that the 14 car was spitting something out of the back end.
Yeah, there's actually a fire in 3 and 4.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Safety crew rolling up down there now, and they see him in the left box. They'll take care of that very quickly, I'm sure, but that's not something you ordinarily see during the course of an IndyCar race.
It doesn't look like that small of a fire either.
Boy, you're trying to sneak out there. There's, again, a little bit of a wind, not a major breeze blowing, but we understand that the Foyt machine did have a fire of some sort when it came into the pits, and that was taken care of with no major concern, but that's what apparently kicked off this little grass fire down here inside turn 4.
Yeah, it was probably a situation where the Foyt car, something they had a fire on it. All it takes, the body work of these cars is so thin. You want to keep everything as light as possible. Probably burnt a little piece of the carbon fiber and came around the corner coming into the pits and just shoot off into the grass, and that's all it took to start the fire.
Of course, in the 2005 IndyCar Series season, of the 17 events, there are going to be 3 events contested on either street or road circuits for the first time in this, the 10th anniversary season. And a lot of speculation about whether or not A.J. Foyt, the owner of the team for Foyt the fourth, will in fact compete on all of those events. Hope that would be the case. The first one is coming up, the 3rd race of the season, at St. Petersburg on the street. So we'll be back in Florida for a street race for the first time. And then late in the season, they'll visit Infineon Raceway in Northern California, as well as Watkins Glen. As a racer, and you were talking about hopefully getting an opportunity to be competing in some events later this season. Do you welcome the opportunity to have some road racing involved in this series?
Oh, I absolutely do. I came from a road racing background in SCCA. I won the '96 national championship on a Formula V. I've always loved road racing. That's kind of where like I said, I came from. I kind of honed my teeth and skills doing that. So I love the oval racing. I love the fact that we're going to do a couple road courses. I think it's going to put a new aspect to the series that's going to be wonderful.
Well, we'll get an opportunity here with 45 laps to go or thereabouts. Here's the running order. We're going to break away for just a few moments. We invite you to stay with us here for our expanded onboard coverage, a unique simulcast today on ESPN2. From the 1.5 mile oval today in Florida to the tighter 1 mile oval in the desert, Phoenix International Raceway, a stop number 2 for these teams, these drivers. That's coming up a week from Saturday, and you can see it on ABC Sports, 3 o'clock Eastern, 12 Pacific. XM Satellite Radio, Indy 200, presented by Ardent Mortgage. Scott Sharp currently in 7th place. Let's check in. A few moments ago, our colleagues over on ESPN got an update from A.J. Foyt.
Welcome back to Homestead, Florida, here at the Toyota Indy 300. We just had a pit incident just a few moments ago. I'm here with four-time Indianapolis 500 champion A.J. Foyt. It was excitement here a few moments ago. What happened?
Well, actually, on the fuel probe inside the car, for some reason, hung. It's all a brand new deal they come out with, and you know, a lot of guys don't originate, and why the one in the car hung, I don't know. We've never had that problem before, but it's one of them misfortune things, you know. It happens there.
He's talking about the single point fuel, guys. Having a little issue here. Everybody's okay.
And our thanks to Jamie Little for the update from AJ. One of them newfangled things for AJ to deal with, that single point fueling mandatory this year. We are anticipating green as they come to turn 4 and onto the front straightaway. 42 laps to go now as the green flag flies once again. Dan Weldon has been setting the pace up front with lots of company. This is still, oh, we got a problem there. And a big hit.
That was a big hit. Looked like, from what I could see, it looked like
Kosuke Matsuura lost control in the 55 car, it appeared. And you've got to look here. Down here we can see that Scott Dixon is involved in this. And I thought
so it's Herta, Sharp,
wow,
and Thomas Schechter as well.
Got all kinds of folks, and unfortunately many of them that were carrying our onboard shots today. We've heard from Scott Sharp. He's all right. Here is Brian Herta removing the wheel with a safety crew there at his car. Boy, that happened so quickly. And of course, we have no idea what, you know, may have precipitated or set that up. See Dixon climbing out of his car. He appears to be just fine. Here's Scott Sharp on the left side of the screen now. He steps from his cockpit.
Got Mike Gates working with Brian Herta down on the right-hand side, and looks like they're talking to each other. Obviously, he's got his helmet off, so he's okay now. The question is whether or not some of the cockpit kind of compress in, and he's got his
or
foot.
if anything got into the cockpit there, that would be the concern. You saw Matsuura get out of his car on the left side of the screen a few moments ago as well. So here comes Brian now, helping himself up out of the seat, try to collect himself. Well, that's, again, this is the situation in this type of racing. Things happen so quickly, and here maybe we can get an idea. Matsuura up high. Oh, there's the contact. Oh, multiple, just no place to go.
Oh, that was a big one. That's getting a little too aggressive on the restart, trying to go 3 wide.
That's what it looked like from Brian Herta's seat. Now from Thomas Schechter.
Ouch.
Inside, he's not there. You're clear all around.
And from Scott Sharp. And now Scott Dixon. Oh, my goodness.
That was the big hit by Danica Patrick there. Just had absolutely nowhere to go. The car came down and she climbed up over the other car. So
well, checking, trying to make sure that everybody is okay, and we have not had a report on Danica at this point. Well, there's a lot of damage out there in these race cars. Of course, your primary concern is the drivers, obviously. I mean, that goes without being said. But you think about all of this hard work and preparation that we talked about early and leading to a new season and the anticipation, and then you have this type of a situation on the restart, and it ends up in just the simplest little move. When something goes wrong for somebody, the chain reaction, and it ends up taking out several contenders.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about how cautions breed cautions, and that's also the magical number. When are we going to really go for it? And I think it was getting to the point where, okay, we're about 40 laps to go to the end of the race. I can make up a few positions that'll get me from 8th up to 5th or whatever the case scenario was. That's right where I need to be to really give a fight, or, to be where I need to be to get a chance to win this fight.
Here's Tony Kanaan, who is in the number 4 spot. You can see them having to kind of weave their way around the incident coming out of turn 2 and out of the back straightaway. Patrick Carpentier is still running, and he is in the top 10 now, in the 7th position. Jacques, I know that you've been in situations like this in your career, and I don't know if you can express what these drivers might be feeling. I mean, I'm sure your emotions run the gamut. There's probably instant anger and frustration, and then you start feeling to make sure that everything is working physically. Tell us a little bit about what your experience has been when something goes bad.
It's tough because obviously this happens very quick. As you see, the car spun out, you're in the wall. It takes a couple tenths of a second, but obviously first thing you want to do is you want to hop out of the car if you can. You take the headrest off. You put the steering wheel up on the dash. They like to see that. That lets the safety crew know that you're okay. Once you do that, then yeah, you get out of the car, and that's when the emotions start getting involved. Because as race car drivers, we are all very emotional about what we do. We love to do it, and we're very passionate about it. But we also our emotional cup runneth over, if you will. And you want to make sure that everyone's okay, because we are a family out there. It's a brotherhood, and you want to make sure that everyone's okay. Once everybody's okay, then you take that next step of anger. Why am I out? What happened? What's going on? Why would somebody do that? Kind of a lot of questions you start asking. Yeah. But
well, you and your brother, Buddy, and the Lazier family have had more than your share of that type of thing happen over the years, and I suppose virtually every racing driver, if you're in the sport for a number of years, that's going to become part of your resume, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, you're talking about inches, and we're traveling 220 miles an hour. That's all it takes is just a real small situation. So, unfortunately, we have had a few, but at the same time, it's always how you come back from an accident. Obviously, a lot of these drivers are upset right now. They'll get with their teams after this, and they'll say, okay, we're going to get them at Phoenix, and they come out with that much more passion to win the race at Phoenix.
Let's check in. A few moments ago, we'll hear from car owner Bobby Rahal.
It was all happening in front of her, and she was doing right, and then Ed Carpenter, who was about 5 laps down or something like that, was in the middle of that restart. Why, I don't know, and he parked it in the middle of the incident, and she just caught up to him. But she did a great job all day, made a lot of good passes, and it's just unfortunate. I think she was feeling comfortable, and big accident, but luckily she looks okay.
Pit stops and traffic, I know, were the 2 main areas of concern for her coming in today. How would you grade her in those areas?
I'd give her pretty good. I don't know if I'd give her an A, but I'd certainly give her a B. I mean, the restarts were, some were good, some weren't so good. But that's just the experience factor. A lot of those restarts, it depends on who's leading the restart. And some of these guys continue to play games, while they're when they're leading the restarts, and it just stacks up. The further back you are, the worse it gets. So, tough day for her, but all in all, I'm pretty pleased.
Interesting evaluation from car owner Bobby Rahal. Danica Patrick now sidelined, and boy, what a steep learning curve she is involved in. But certainly the boss sounded like he was pretty pleased with what she did up until that particular moment, and you could certainly hear the frustration in his voice about the way that incident came about.
Yeah, you can hear the frustration, but I think more importantly is somebody needs to go to her right after this and say, you got to put that one right out of your mind, because there was nothing she could do. That was not her fault. I think up to that point she ran a very intelligent race. She was learning about restarts, and as Bobby Rahal said, it's a learning experience. I think she learned a lot today, and she needs to get that one out from her mind, because there's nothing she could have done in that one. I think she had a very good day altogether.
Saw Manning come in and get some service there. Possible damage as a result of the incidents. Here's your race leader, Dan Weldon, in that left box. You still see that there's plenty of cleanup work being done on this mile-and-a-half oval. This is all over and coming out of turn 2 onto the back straightaway. And we still have 35 laps yet to go in this event. And let's count up. This is our 7th yellow of the day. Yes, it has 7 of them. We're going to break away here and get a chance to regroup. Still got a very interesting shootout here. Hornish, who has won here 3 times in years past, his teammate Castroneves chasing Dan Weldon with Kanana Mira right behind. Jacques Lazier joining me. I'm Gary Gerald. This is our special onboard simulcast coverage of today's IndyCar Series opener from Homestead-Miami. And we have had a major incident here involving several drivers. All of them have avoided injury, but there has been extensive damage. Herta, Schechter, Danica Patrick, Scott Sharp, Scott Dixon, all of them have been sidelined. So let's go back here and take a look at a series or a sequence of replays on that incident. Matsura, number 55 from the high side, got loose, and then it just seemed to take off from there. Boy, and so much for the various onboard looks that we had been enjoying throughout this day, including this one for Brian Herta. And his day is complete. So back live under yellow. We have completed 166 of the 200 laps, and Dan Weldon is the leader. We're riding with Tony Kanaan, the defending series champion. You can see he is in 4th place. Patrick Carpentier also carries one of our onboards. He is now in the top 10. He is listed in the 6th position in car number 83 for Eddie Cheever's team. I think we're going to get an opportunity here while we are under yellow. We'll check in. Patrick Carpentier, Gary Gerald, we're in the ESPN2 television booth. Do you copy us? Well, that obviously didn't work the way we had hoped it might be able to talk to Patrick. Be interested in his thoughts in making his debut here in this series.
Yeah, I think he got a first-hand look on exactly what happened to with that melee or all those crashes. I think he was running about 12th when that happened, and everything happened right in front of him. So I've been kind of curious to see how he got through all that.
Well, the important thing from his standpoint is the fact that he did get through all of that. His teammate Alex Barron is just 2 spots behind him in the 8th position. Certainly that's encouraging news for Eddie Cheever and his Red Bull team. It's by far the most significant incident of the day. No question about that. There was one prior contact incident that involved Ryan Briscoe, and he was able to step away after he got loose on lap 63 and backed it into the outside wall. Car sustained a good deal of rear end damage, but he was not hurt. Patrick Carpentier from Quebec, his first IRL IndyCar season. He has 5 wins as a driver in either the old cars or the Champ Car Series, and now joining forces with Eddie Cheever. And fun watching him through the course of 2005. Saw one of the tow vehicles record with one of the damaged cars. Here's another one now as we pass by. A lot of car owners swallowing real deep here after looking at how much repair work is going to have to be done between now and 2 weeks from now when the second race takes place in Phoenix. I'm going to go to a look now that we haven't seen previously from Carpentier's onboard.
That's a Herta right there. The rest of the crash right in front of him. Then we have Donica and Ed Carpenter hit right there. And flying debris. Oh, a little touch there.
And we said coming in that this would be a unique perspective, and it would really put you as close to being in the driver's seat as you can. And I think right there, even you slow that down and you look at all of that debris raining around you. We're going to try one more time to see if we can touch base with Patrick Carpentier. Patrick, from the television booth, Gary Gerald here. Do you copy? Well, apparently we have not been able to succeed or overcome whatever gremlin and get in touch with his seat. We apologize, but hey, it's live television. That's what happens sometimes.
Either that or maybe he's still trying to catch his breath from what just happened.
Well, we're up to 170 laps now in the book. Actually, 171 shown here on our running order. This is lap 171, 170 complete. Tony Kanaan, the determination to come in with a target on your back, so to speak, as a defending champion. Every time you go out, somebody's trying to knock you off that pedestal. That takes pretty strong discipline to rise to that challenge, but I'm sure it's a challenge any driver would welcome.
It definitely is, and I think when it comes to racing drivers, he's about as committed as they come. He's very dedicated. He's very athletic. He works out a lot. Obviously, he's a triathlete and very determined to not only succeed. He's always talked about how his dream is to win a championship. I mean, he won them in other forms, but he always wanted to win an upper echelon championship. He's done that now. He's got the taste. You know what? I think he's probably as hungry now as he was last year, if not even more so.
He fulfilled a lifelong dream when his father passed away when he was, I believe, 13 age. His father encouraged him. Why you get up in that gray area, and sometimes it's hard to hang on to.
It really is, especially with cold tires. It was on a restart. You're coming up to speed. You're on the outside. The Firestone does an incredible job with their tires, but you're still talking about rubber, and rubber has a tendency to go somewhere, and it's going to go towards the top. I think he got up there, maybe got a little bit of dirt. Dirty tire, you know, got some marbles on the right rear, and that's all it took. And you can just see the car, it just kind of came back across the track as it went loose.
We talked when we started this broadcast about how frustrating 2004 was for Thomas Scheckter. Well, Jamie Little had a chance to talk to Thomas moments ago.
Well, we are with Thomas Scheckter now, the pole sitter. We thought today was finally going to be the day. Thomas, you're obviously very upset. What happened?
Well, I think the 55 cut across in front of me. It's ridiculous what happened, and if the IRL doesn't do something about it, I'm gonna, because you know it's dangerous for everybody out there, and I'm sick of these idiots driving like that.
What do you think happened?
I don't think I know. He 55 came across, Kotske came across around me around the outside, and he tried to cut right in front of me, got sideways, and ended up taking out half the field. It's really upsetting. Everybody, Chevrolet and Pennzoil, put so much into this, and you know what, it pisses me off. I'm sorry, it does.
Thomas Scheckter, number 4, another tough day. Dr. Punch?
Well, we'll come back to our booth here on the ESPN2 side, and our thanks to our colleagues on ESPN providing the traditional race coverage of this season opening event. And Jacques, you could tell that there's no doubt Thomas is disgusted and he is irate, and probably with good reason.
Yeah, I mean, he is definitely has good reasons for that. At the same time, we're getting late in the race.
It's racing, isn't it?
It's racing.
I mean, I know it's emotional. A cliche, but
unfortunately, it was a situation. I don't think it happened exactly like he said. I think what happened is he got his tires dirty on the outside, and that's what brought the car back in front. I don't think he was trying to cut in front, but you know, at 220 miles an hour, yeah, it might look like he was trying to cut in front of him, but it's obviously a very passionate, very emotional time right now. So as you can see, this is Kotske on the outside. You can see the debris coming off the right rear.
You can see the rear off the right rear.
That's all it took. Yeah. So it's unfortunate. It's a racing incident for sure. It's just what's unfortunate is it happened at this particular point. If it would have been maybe 2 laps later, it might have just been a one-car incident. It was just that everybody was so bunched up.
Well, you race in packs, and that has become kind of the signature of this series. There is always that risk, and a high price paid here by any number of drivers, and a lot of damaged equipment and a lot of frayed tempers.
See, this is on board Danica, and this is the big hit right here. Climbs up a little bit, and then it's just straight up into the wall. Ouch.
Scott Dixon.
Again, really had nowhere to go. That's a gut-wrenching feeling right there.
Getting the indication here of 1 lap to go as the field now comes. Continue to watch replays. Our field coming across the start line here, and so the cleanup process has been completed, and you see now that we're inside 25 laps to go. Dan Weldon, Sam Hornish Jr., Helio Castro-Neves, Tony Kanaan, Patrick Carpentier in the top 5 spots after that series of crashes that has knocked out that group of drivers, and a lot of contenders have fallen by the wayside. But we've still got a lot of talent up here, and we'll battle it out, and let's hope that we can get home incident-free the rest of the way.
Trying to pick up the pace here on board Carpentier. Green is out.
Ooh, he's in a sandwich. Look out here. It's 3 wide. Vitor Mira on the inside.
That was a welcome to the series.
Yeah. Held his ground very nicely. Now on board with Tony Kanaan. And back to Carpentier.
Hear the car there hitting the rev limiter. It's just, they're probably in 5th gear. They got a good run going. There's a couple cars in front of them getting a real good tow.
And that's that soft limiter you were talking about?
Yeah, that's the soft limiter.
Darren Manning in car number 10. He is in 6th place, completing the last lap.
Right in front of Darren, you have Vitor Mira, and he's kind of running a little bit of a higher line. I think he's trying to get a little more momentum in the car so he can jump down low and try to catch the 4 cars in front of him.
Yeah, that's I was just going to point that out. It seemed like that you don't want to get separated from that front 4, but the front 4 is now opening up just a little bit of a gap, a couple of seconds over mid-pack. It's very tight up front, meanwhile, between Weldon, Ornish, and Kanaan. Carpentier continuing to stalk Manning, and now getting a little bit of a run on him, but maybe just peeking out to get some clean air. See some damage there on the right side pod of the number 10 car. He got a piece of that accident. We saw him duck into the pits, and they were able to get him back out, and he may be in a position to get a very nice finish in this first event of a new year.
Yeah, when he was in the pits, they changed the front wing, too. So obviously somebody, everybody goes into a defense mode trying to get out of the way of everything. They obviously bump side by side, and there's enough to take part of the wing off, too.
Dan Weldon, and you can see the race pace now. Fast lap 2:14. The last lap was 2:13 and a half. Boy, he's been stout in that Honda for Andretti Green and setting the pace here. But he's got Sam Hornish Jr., Tony Kanaan, and Helio Castro-Neves almost in line. And having their own little private battle back here for 6th place. Manning in number 10 and on board with Carpentier.
I'm pretty sure they're going to run like this for the next 17 laps side by side.
We're going to swing back now to our colleagues on ESPN, as a few moments ago Vince Welch, who works in the pits with Jerry Punch and Jamie Little, was able to catch up with Eddie Cheever. Let's hear those remarks.
Eddie Cheever, anything left for the finish here? Your driver's running 5th, Patrick Carpentier.
Patrick's done a great job. It was kind of like an indoctrination by fire today. It's been a very exciting race. Our cars haven't been as quick as we wanted to be, but if he sticks with the draft, you never know.
Very succinct comments from Cheever as he anxiously watches this battle right here. Carpentier in 7th place. Manning driving for Chip Ganassi's team right in front of him in 6th.
Yeah, unfortunately on that restart, we saw him kind of getting the sandwich between Vitor and Darren, and that was enough where he had to back out of it. And sure enough, Darren and Carpentier both have lost the draft from the main group.
Look at this. This is Hornish and Kanaan. Kanaan nosing into 2nd place for the moment. Kanaan can hold on to that 2nd spot. He will be chasing his teammate Dan Weldon. So we lost in that major crash 5 of our onboard cars, so we're left with 2 onboard looks from Carpentier, and we've still got a great battle here between these two for 6th. And up front with Tony Kanaan, who's hoping that he can challenge his teammate for a win. But Dan Weldon, 1.2-second advantage at the last time check. Weldon, incidentally, has led this race since the 151st lap.
I'll tell you, the Penske teammates look like they're getting a little impatient. They're running 3rd and 4th right now, and looks like Sam Hornish is right behind Tony Kanaan, and Elio's back there going to a little bit to the low side, trying to keep his car, front end of the car clean air.
I remember how Hornish outdueled and outsnookered his teammate Castroneves to win this race 1 year ago. And what a great start it was for Sam in his first drive for Roger Penske. I started to mention earlier on, we had a yellow flag incident, that this is Roger Penske's 40th year of IndyCar racing, and what an amazing record his teams and drivers have compiled over those years. And I'm sure you would agree, Jack, that they've got great talent in Hornish and Castroneves on the current team.
They definitely do. I think the two of them have had last year. They kind of struggled a little bit. I think it's brought them closer together as a team. I think they're going to be extremely strong this year.
Well, you got Tim Cindric heading up the racing operation, and he's on the radio with Castroneves, and you've got Roger on board with Hornish, and you know that that's a tough team to beat anytime. We've got a great battle going on here. This is for 2nd place, Tony Kanaan. He is 1.8 seconds behind his teammate, Dan Weldon. He continues the lead, and we now have 10 laps to go. Let's get an update on Danica Patrick. Jamie Little in a conversation just a few moments ago with John Griffin.
Well, Todd, I'm with John Griffin from the IRL. An update on Danica at this point. What is the latest?
She's going to be transported up to Baptist Hospital here in Kendall, South Florida. According to Dr. Bach, our senior technical director, she has a concussion. They're going to take her up to the hospital for precautionary reasons, and we should have an update here by the end of the race.
But she did walk in on her own graces.
She walked in under her own strength, was feeling a little bit woozy, so Dr. Bach wants to send her up to the hospital.
Well, guys, she was running one tough race. We wish her the best and hope to see her next week in Phoenix.
That report interview just a few moments ago from Jamie Little on our sister station, ESPN, and the traditional coverage of this race. Certainly encouraging to hear that Danica was able to walk into the infield care center on her own, and certainly we echo the thoughts of Jamie. We trust that she'll be all right. We had thought that everybody had gotten through incident-free in what were a series of big hits. But now we focus our attention on the battle up front. 7 laps to go.
I think we're really looking for a battle here between for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, because I'll tell you what, Dan Weldon is just walking away. He's almost 2.5 seconds out in front, and he's consistently been at least 1.5 miles quicker than everyone else.
What kind of impetus does this give your season when you have this kind of performance first event?
This is ideally, this is the dream beginning for Dan Weldon's season, to basically dominate. He didn't win the pole, but other than that, he's been the fastest car all day. He's led the most laps, and you know, unless something happens in the next 5 laps, as fast as he's going and as far away from 2nd place as he's getting, he's looking strong.
Vitor Meira making his presence felt. He is in 5th place, and he trying to take a look here as we look back from Tony Kanaan. Now, last year, Kanaan won the championship. Weldon finished second in points in a 16-race season. This year, it's a 17-race season. And right now, it's Weldon who has the advantage on Kanaan. Check back in here on Carpentier as he continues to chase Darren Manning, and Manning's been able to hold him off. Now you can see with 4 laps to go.
A good run for Patrick as well. Obviously, you've never been in this series before. You can watch it on TV, you can see what they do, but until you actually get out here and really see what the action's all about, how close we run, you get that first race. You got to get that first race out of your way first. And he's been doing a great job at it.
Well, it's about money time here in the race. It looks like it's going to be for second place. Weldon now with a 3-second advantage. And he just ran his last lap at 213 miles per hour. Kanaan was a tick under 212. Weldon now on this lap just completed 212.6. Kanaan 211.3. And look at Vitor Mira. He is right there too. Any kind of a little hiccup, a wiggle, a mistake could cost you a couple of spots. It's getting serious now. Hornish in third, Mira in fourth, Castro Neves, couple of car lengths behind them in fifth. White flag has been displayed. Final lap of the season opening Toyota Indy 300 from Homestead-Miami Speedway. Dan Weldon has been the man over the latter stages of this race. Here comes a run now by Hornish. He's alongside. Coming down to the checkers. Weldon has won it. Oh my goodness, I think Hornish ended up second. He was second. Tony Kanaan was third. Vitor Mera was fourth. And almost a photo finish for second, third, and fourth. Castro Neves in the number 5 spot. Well, congratulations to Dan Weldon. And you can see the indication from Kanaan. Is that a donut indication, do you think, Jack?
I think they're going to celebrate together.
We're going to the bakery. We'll see here as we'll keep an eye on Dan Weldon in number 26. There's Michael Andretti in the left-hand box, the team owner. His rookie year last year as a team owner, joining up forces with Kim and Barry Greed and company. Just an amazing, successful season, almost a storybook season. And they pick up where they left off with a win right here. Well, let's see what's going to happen here now. Dan Weldon coming down the front straightaway as he approaches the flag stand. And here they come. It's donut time. From Edmonton, England, the 26-year-old driver putting up a major smoke screen, and the fans are loving it down below us here at the start-finish line. 3 career wins last year at Motegi, on the short track at Richmond, the mile at Nazareth, and now opening the season on the 1.5-mile oval here in Florida at Homestead-Miami Speedway. And Dan Weldon with his 4th career win. Now he'll go back around the track and make his way toward victory lane. Pontier climbing out as he ended up in the 7th position after he continued that battle with Darren Manning, and Manning ended up winning the 6th spot. There's Tony Kanaan, of course. The chemistry in the Andretti Green Racing team last year was really simply amazing, and here they are with a good strong finish, 1st and 3rd. Hornish ended up 2nd, but the separation between the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place was exactly 1/10 of a second. Amazing. And another 10th to Castro Neves, who ended up 5th. You see where they started, you see where they finished, right on down through the line. So the first 200 lap test has been completed, and it was Weldon by 3.5 seconds over Sam Hornish, Tony Kanaan, Vitor Mira, Helio Castro Neves getting our season opening victory. Well, under perfect conditions today, the only thing that marred this was the late race accident that took out several drivers. You heard the medical update on Danica Patrick. In case you're just joining us, she will be taken into a nearby hospital for further observation. She did suffer a concussion, but she was able to walk into the medical center under her own power. Ryan Herta, Thomas Schechter, Scott Sharp, Scott Dixon, all involved. They were all able to climb out of their cars and get back into the paddock area. Now you see the 26 machine, Honda-powered Andretti Green Racing entry, driven by Dan Weldon, now finding his way into victory lane. We're going to go down now to victory lane and join our colleagues from the ESPN side, and Dr. Jerry Punch is down there.
Real deal for 2005. He's young, he's hungry, he's focused. He's actually drawn from the experience from the other 3 teammates for the previous year, and I think he's ready to win a championship.
Well, Dan Weldon certainly was on it all day long, and he certainly deserves the victory here as we start off the IndyCar season in 2005 in fine fashion.
Well, he hails from England, but today Dan Weldon is the sweetheart of South Florida. The confetti is flying, and this crowd here that came out to watch exciting IRL IndyCar action have gotten their money's worth, because what a performance today by Dan Weldon.
Quite a battle down at the end, Sam, trying to get back.
High fives here in victory lane. Hugs from all the crew, and after he took the checker flag, he was telling the crew, and now Rick Klein here, the chairman for Klein Tools, giving Dan a big hug. And Danny, what a performance today here at Homestead-Miami Speedway. You just walked away there in that final 25 laps.
Man, I'm glad you think I walked away with it. It was pretty tough. Anytime you got Hornish breathing down your neck, it's difficult. But, you know, a fantastic job for the team. I mean, they worked very hard on this, and, you know, it's going to be a tough season. You could see how competitive it was. But I'm very, very happy with the result. Really, really good way to start a very competitive 17-race championship, so I'm proud.
Your teammate, Tony Kanaan, they have a category in basketball called assist. He did a great job keeping the Penske guys busy when he got around both of them there with about 15 to go.
Yeah, I think obviously my car was very competitive, and he's the boss.
Michael Andretti giving him a big hug. And
but it was, you know, the car was just excellent. I think Eddie Jones did a fantastic job, and, you know, it's my first time with John Anderson and the boys, and it's just a good team. It's really good to be part of, but we got to keep doing this because, you know, Penske are hot on our heels, and so are the other teams.
You finished the year second in the points a year ago. Could this be the omen that this is Dan Weldon's year like it was Tony Kanaan's a year ago?
Brother, we're one race into the championship, one race. There's 16 to go, but if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. I just enjoy winning races, so that's what I'm going to do. Who cares about anything else?
One impressive race. Congratulations. Go celebrate, Dan.
Thank you.
Dan Weldon in victory lane here at Homestead-Miami Speedway.
Thank you very much, Jerry, and a very happy Andretti Green team. Dan Weldon reigns supreme in South Florida.
Thank you.
So had your back door protector.
Well, guys, I tell you what, Dan Weldon, everyone said he would be a favorite in 2005. And
back on the ESPN2 side, our thanks to all those who've made this broadcast possible today. We hope you've enjoyed expanded coverage and all onboard view. Coming up next, the 2004 World's Strongest Man competition. Don't forget, in 2 weeks on ABC, these drivers, these cars competing on the mile oval at Phoenix, second race of 17 in the IndyCar Series. Jacques Lazier, thank you so much for helping us out today on such short notice. You did a terrific job. For Jacques, I'm Gary Gerald. Thanks for joining us. Our congratulations to Dan Weldon. We remind you this has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, always log on to ESPN.com. Have a great day, everyone.